The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome in Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett with you here. Off and rolling here on a Tuesday. And, gentlemen, we still seem down today. We still seem a little sad. Jacob, I see you. You're a little brighter today.
Yeah.
Dark sweatpants, but you went with a lighter hoodie. So getting
Well,
a little bright black
something.
hat, though.
I spilled something on my black hoodie last night, so I have to wash it, or I probably would have still been wearing the all black. I thought I was going to feel better by now. Not really the case. Was hoping somebody over the last 24 hours would be able to give me some positive spin on my professional football team, but again, has not been the case. So yeah, we're still here, but we'll try to talk our way out of it.
What about you, Mr. Rearing?
Well, I was thinking
Well.
about it, and I was thinking about it yesterday and how all my sports teams don't win anything.
That's right.
And
What do you
now
mean? The
it's-
Reds just won the offseason, dude.
Yeah,
That is
they
true.
did. They listen. It was a playoff.
There's nothing
race.
better than winning the offseason before the DS
It's
is
the
over.
pre-off
Yeah.
season.
That's good.
Or as good teams call it, the playoffs.
Yeah,
So
right.
Continue.
No.
But continue.
winning the offseason in the second round of the playoffs is tough.
It is.
That is tough.
It is. Well, our off season probably started a little earlier.
That's
probably
true.
started a couple weeks ago. But here we go. The Reds and the Bengals, eventually they'll be good. It just won't be this year. And that's what I have to live with. The Cincinnati Bengals, the 2024 season, is not mathematically over, but spiritually it's over. And I don't know if I can recover.
And there you have it.
The only thing that made me happy yesterday, and I don't mean to take shots at your guy, but
Respectfully.
the Stephen A. Smith clip was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Did you see it?
I did. What about him getting arrested?
Yeah.
Gee, go on.
Stephen A. Smith said if there was a way to arrest him for being bad, I wouldn't have an issue with it. And it was the funniest clip.
Did you see on Sunday Terry Bradshaw said that they should put Deshaun Watson down?
Oh no! Did they really? Did he really?
And they said not literally. They
Well,
had to clarify.
they had to
clarify.
hold his hand to make sure that he clarified that he meant bench him. But I don't think he did.
So like that's the part of it, that's the part of me that makes me feel better is that there is a situation out there that's significantly worse
That's
than
true.
ours.
That's
Do you want to? So Greeny had a good one.
Oh,
I
what
guess
did he say?
if they cut him and the dead cap next year is like 176 million, he goes, you wouldn't even be able to afford Ohio State's roster with what's left of the payroll. So I'm like, damn it, Greeny. I was like, that's a good one, actually. I'm not even mad at that one.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
But yeah, no, maybe one day we'll experience joy.
Maybe. What about you, Casey? What about you?
I think I have a bit of a more positive outlook, more positive spin on it. I still think that there's shreds of hope there on that defense. But yeah, as a Bengals fan, I mean, we're 1-4, and historically, most teams don't make it to the playoffs at 1-4, and those are just the facts. So, got to live with those.
So last thing on this, because we'll get into some Bengals stuff coming up here in a bit. Yesterday, Terry Francona introduced as the new manager for the Cincinnati Reds. And it was about an hour-long press conference. And on top of that, we're not going to replay that hour-long press conference. But there was a lot of key that we could. We could all just leave early.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
We could.
All right. Team on three.
1, 2, 3.
Team. All right. But no, we went ahead and pulled a couple clips from that, the most important ones that we thought we'll have that coming up here shortly. Also, Zach Taylor addressed the media. That might make Jacob a little sadder.
It certainly didn't help.
I'll ruin his day even more later on in the show coming up here in a bit. But look, the last time they played Washington and they got beat, obviously it was a shootout, very similar situation. They lose a close one. We came in on that. Well, technically it would have been Wednesday because they played Monday Night Football. But Tuesday was a reactionary, emotional Tuesday to that game. But Wednesday, you dialed it back a little bit. You said you felt that doesn't seem to be the case. 2 days later, it does not seem to be the case for you this turnaround.
Yeah, I was watching more of the All-22 film last night, getting ready for Chatterbox Bengals tonight, and I'm trying to find positives. Usually when I watch losses, it's just to make myself sad and just continue to pile on the sadness. Not this time. I was genuinely looking for something to be positive about. On the defensive side of the ball, I think all the stuff that's left to be positive about is just hoping that guys that aren't playing yet can be better than the guys that are out there. And that's kind of where we're at, because it doesn't really get worse than the safety duo, and I don't know what to look at with this cornerback room without Dax Hill for the rest of the year.
Did they try their best, though?
I don't know.
You don't know if they tried their best?
I really don't know. And
think
that's the
Geno-
thing.
Is it possible that Geno Stone's a double agent?
Definitely possible.
I think it's
He
a
did help the
non-zero
Ravens
chance.
win.
Definitely
he did help
possible.
the Ravens
the
win
Ravens
for
win.
back-to-back
Definitely
years.
possible. He might be a quadruple agent, though, because he also helped the Commanders and the Patriots win.
That's right.
And the Chiefs win.
Treason,
Wow.
right there.
We might be onto something.
We might have broken ground here.
So we're gonna get a new sounder for Elliot's headlines because it's a little outdated. It got outdated very quickly, and I think we need
It's
to move
outdated,
on.
but at the same time, it still holds true.
So
And it doesn't matter what sport that we're talking about. The season is always over.
Well, I'll tell you what. Then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna use it one more time because we have some new ones coming. Okay,
Okay.
we have some new ones coming, a little fresher. Okay, but let's bid farewell to this one today, everyone. It is now time
For the final headlines,
for the final version of Elliot's headlines.
Elliot loves three things: Joey Votto, David Bell, and leading off the bench with top headlines.
I'm going to miss David Bell.
I'm gonna miss him too.
We're just killing him in every aspect.
I'm gonna miss David Bell more than I've missed anybody.
That's probably
and it's-
a fair statement.
And it's not because he was a good manager. It's not because I'm sentimental about him. It's because I wanted to be right, and I wasn't.
yeah, I
So
think
that's the hard
that
part.
really is the crux of it. Yeah.
But headlines,
That'll do it.
headlines. So the Tigers. If you watched playoff baseball yesterday, you had a good day because the Detroit Tigers, in what was that, the ninth inning, the top of the ninth inning against Clase, arguably the Cy Young Award winner, in my mind, hit a 3-run home run. It was off the bat of Kerry Carpenter. They win 3-0 against the Guardians to even up that series at 1 apiece. Tyreek Skubal was phenomenal. 7 innings, 3 hits, 8 strikeouts. Oh, here we go. Let's see what we got here. Whoa.
Whoa!
Whoa.
Whoa!
We have a
Breaking news.
Robert Salah has been fired as head coach of the New York Jets.
Aaron Rodgers fired him.
You know who's about to take over? It's Aaron Rodgers.
Jets, Jets. They have just lost
Wow.
their head coach
So that makes them a better football team.
on October 8th. Wow.
That's a surprise.
All right, all they need is Devontae Adams to save my fantasy team and to help their team as well.
Did they list who the interim would be yet or no?
No.
Okay.
That's pretty massive news there.
See you, Lou. Come on down, Bob Salah.
It took one. Let's do a little domino.
He's a hell of a DC in San Francisco.
Wow, how about that? Did I not say the name right? I said the name right? Robert Salah?
And I believe so.
I thought you were just putting an Elliott spin on it, but Robert Saleh.
Salah.
But I thought you were just putting an
That's all.
Elliott spin on it.
You know.
Oh, I didn't know.
You know.
I didn't know.
Salah. I
Either
like
way,
that better, to
I
be
think
honest.
Salah's better.
I think
like
it's
Salah.
better too. Matthew
Justin Kinah,
Justin
Jacob Tizard, Casey McAllister.
Elliot Rearing. Matthew Boyd, 4 2/3, 4 hits, 0 earned. Played pretty well against his former team. But Tigers, Guardians square at 1 apiece. The Royals and the Yankees. Royals win 4-2. Cole Ragans didn't pitch great, I would say, but he was okay. 4 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. The rest of the bullpen carried him all the way home. The Yankees, on the other side of the baseball, they did not win. Carlos Rodon, 3 2/3, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. They used a bunch of pitchers after that as well, including our boy Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver has
Who is
been
nails.
phenomenal. Saying that series is now tied at 1 apiece. And if you didn't watch the Monday night football game between the Saints and the Kansas City Chiefs won in a game that was probably the grossest I've seen yet this year. It was just a game that was over immediately. The Saints had no answer ever. Derek Carr was okay, got hurt, had to leave the game due to an oblique injury. Alvin Kamara, 11 for 26. Shaheed was the leading receiver with 86 yards and a touchdown. On the Chiefs side of things, it looks like the Kelsey year is back. 9 for 70. 9 catches, 70 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster had 7 catches for 130 yards. And they found their lead running back, Kareem Hunt, had 27 rushes for 102 yards and a touchdown. As somebody who got Jacob, I think, told me to get him on fantasy immediately before he even signed with him. I did that, and now he's on my team and he starts every game. So, Kareem Hunt, congratulations. You are now a Kansas City Chief. Mahomes, 331 and an interception. Has he thrown an interception every game?
5 picks.
Oh, wow.
Lead the league.
And 28 for 39, though, so he's pretty good.
Of those 39 passes, none of them were thrown into a tight window.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Interesting stat. And over 300 of his passing yards came on passes under 15 air yards.
Oh.
Check down merchant.
Oh, that's what people are saying.
That's what people are saying. And
Harrison-
bad news on Derek Carr after
Harrison
the game.
Butker also missed a kick.
Oh yeah, that was. And then Troy and
You heard that, yeah.
Troy and Joe Buck bury the Bengals.
Yeah,
over
they
the
did.
Game. That was unnecessary. But bad news on Derek Carr after the game. He said everyone thought he got hurt on the sack when I guess it wasn't a sack, but on the hit on that final throw. But he said he felt his core pop on the torque to throw the ball before the hit. So certainly not great news in terms of his getting back to play. So,
Oh, boy.
Yeah, could miss some significant time as of now. Jake Haener, the backup, old Fresno State quarterback.
All right. So those are your headlines.
Man, I checked out on the Saints real quick. I think a lot of people did.
Yeah.
They had that fun week. They had 2 great weeks.
Glad I did not sell my Saints stink stock after week 2.
Alvin Kamara could be a play at the deadline.
He's so good.
Could be. Maybe. I'm not sure what their future is. Do you have more?
No, that was it. That was it for mine.
I don't know if you saw, Jacob, but Georgia slowly turning into Urban Meyer's Florida.
Yeah, this one was a doozy.
So Georgia running back Colby Young accused of assaulting an unborn child, battery, and just horrific stuff. But this is the 7th Georgia player arrested since March of 2024. And the way McMurphy words that is like 2024, like a preview. No, that's the 7th player arrested since March of this year.
It's ridiculous.
My thing with Georgia is this: like, think back to when Urban, everything was going on at Florida. Like a lot of stuff kept coming out, but they just seemed like a bunch of different isolated incidences. And then we come out to find out in that documentary how much stuff was actually brushed under the rug. It's amazing to me how much stuff actually gets out. There's so much stuff that's not getting out. Like I don't know. Kirby Smart's a great coach. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, like there is a big time lack of any kind of control of this program at this point. I'm just really interested to see what more can come out of this program because obviously when you're winning national championships, all of that gets overlooked. But if they don't win one this year, they don't win one next year, and it starts going a while. I don't know. I think this is a problem no matter what, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a lot of arrests for a lot of
Pretty terrible.
bad things. So, yeah, I mean, it's one thing for obviously not downplaying DUIs and things of that nature, but it's one thing for college kids to stack up DUIs. It's another thing for battery and abuse, and now this one against an unborn child, just heinous crimes. I don't really understand how this happens so frequently at a football program like Georgia. It seems to have things buttoned up, at least on Saturdays. I mean, they always look like a pretty sound
the town's
program.
safe. They're all in the same spot at the same time. Like,
if I'm a student in Athens, I don't know how I'm feeling about that football team.
That's pretty terrible.
Yeah, disgusting.
There almost has to be like repercussions. There almost has to be punishment for the top of that program.
Well, in the NFL, it's like if you even get accused of something, you're going to be suspended, even if you found out that you did nothing wrong. I mean, even Trevor Bauer, right? Like in Major League Baseball, but with college, it doesn't matter. It's like, hey, until you're behind bars, that means you're readily available. Get out there. Like, that's what's wild about the lack of constitutional control. That was the term I was looking for earlier. Lack of constitutional control right now with Georgia from the top up. I mean, at some point, the school, you would think, would have to say, what the hell's going on?
And I know you can't babysit. I don't know how many kids are on a college football roster, 100-something kids. I don't know. You can't babysit everyone. But I feel like if, like, a sizable percentage of the roster is committing crimes, maybe we should talk to somebody about that.
It's like a quarter of the roster.
Yeah, maybe we should look into that and maybe not allow that to continue.
And there's no fear of repercussions, obviously.
Right.
There's no fear of repercussions when it comes to that. And confession, I read Brett McMurphy's tweet I actually never paid attention to what the player was arrested of. So as I was reading that, if you noticed, I kind of paused. I'm like, that's not what I was expecting, to be honest.
No.
I was reading that live on air for the first
No.
time. So nonetheless, but yes, more problems at Georgia, or is it? Because it seems it's not a problem for them. It's a problem, don't get me wrong, but it's like it doesn't seem to be a problem to them, which is just wild.
It's unbelievable.
So, all right, on my show yesterday, I had a caller call in to point out that, hey, when he's at the gym over the last couple of days, when he's out and about running errands, he sees more people wearing Reds apparel, Reds jerseys than ever before. And obviously it has a lot to do since, of course, the hiring of Terry Francona, which was officially made official yesterday during the introductory press conference. We have a lot to dive into and takeaways from that. He addressed his health. He addressed what accountability means to him. He addressed what assurances, if any, were given to him or not given to him when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds, and then addressed, of course, how long he thinks he's going to be involved with the sport of baseball. So we have all that coming up. But you could already see the impact just based on the caller that called into the show yesterday that, like, fans are noticing it. We're all noticing it. We're all noticing the vibe has picked up. And look, Terry Francona hasn't managed one day for the Cincinnati Reds, but he already has people talking about the Reds in the month of October, and that's what you like to hear. Just hopefully next year it's for the playoffs. But we'll get to all of that coming up more as we dissect the introductory press conference as Terry Francona officially named the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. More off the bench when we come back.
It's the third smallest eye.
All right, and we are back off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. So we found out last week Terry Francona was going to be the Reds' new manager in 2024, or 2025, I should say. And the excitement hasn't drowned out by any means, but once the couple days of just being excited about it and instant reaction to it all, the questions start to trickle in. Okay, well, what does accountability mean to a guy like Terry Francona? Why would he pick the Cincinnati Reds? He retired because of his health issues. Are health issues no longer a factor? He touched on all of that yesterday. And guys, before we start sharing some of the clips, what was the biggest takeaway you had just in seeing how he handled the media yesterday? Because for me, it was just, he's a breath of fresh air. He's a personality. He's a character, and that can't be any more different than David Bell. And that's not a knock on David Bell. You don't have to be a character by any means. You just got to win games. David Bell could have continued being the most dull guy in interviews if he just won baseball games. That's not the case. But there is something about just changing the vibe of an organization just based on personality alone. And I think we can all agree Terry Francona, just based on yesterday's press conference alone, feels like he's done that.
Yeah, it wasn't coach speak. And I think that was my biggest takeaway, too.
Right.
I think him being his own person, and no offense to David Bell, but it was the same answer every night. It was the same tone of voice every night. Not that you can really change your voice when you lose every night, but that's what it was.
Just the tone.
It's the tone, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself. And maybe that'll change as next season continues. But his first press conference, I couldn't have been more happy to have him as my skipper. No doubt about it. I mean, he was as original as one could be. And I could tell those answers weren't scripted. He was just being himself. And that's what I want. I want somebody who can think for themselves. That's why I didn't really want a Skip Schumacher or a David Ross or anybody else. No offense to those guys. But it seemed like it would be one of those things where they would be the manager for us, but they wouldn't really be the manager for them. And I think it would be their moves would be controlled by somebody else. I don't know that. I don't know the ins and outs of what goes on, but that's what it would feel like to me. You know what Dusty Baker was. You know what Terry Francona is. They're their own manager. They're going to go by the beat of their own drum. It doesn't mean they're not going to use analytics. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that they're going to make decisions based on feel and being so involved with baseball for so long.
Yeah, I wanted any justification for why I'm so happy about him getting hired, because it is a manager, and I've downplayed that position for a while. And then for him to sit up there and have such a great press conference, it's just more reason to get back on the Reds wagon, which is all I've ever wanted, really. After this season, it was, I don't know how excited I'm going to get for opening day next year, and now we're October 8th, and we're already maybe more excited than last year.
Yeah.
I don't know, but certainly a big boost in Reds country, and it's because Terry Francona sounds like a winning manager.
Yeah, and look, he's going to win. We expect him to win, no doubt about it. But, to go back to the personality thing, like I said, David Bell, it's a preference. From a media perspective, David Bell is not a media member's dream because he's not going to give you anything, which, by the way, he is doing his job from that standpoint. They are trained to not give you anything. They're not supposed to give you anything. But Francona is he's a character, as I mentioned earlier. Francona goes out there and wins. It's the best of both worlds. You get a character, a guy with charisma, a guy with aura, and you're winning. But if he goes out there and doesn't win, it's like, well, I don't really care about the personality anymore. Go out there and win. That's all that matters. But right now, off to a very good start. So obviously, as I mentioned, we all had like a ton of questions. For one, like Francona to the Reds, we were all kind of really getting into it during that conversation about like, man, that'd be kind of cool. But it was wishful thinking, or so we thought. But mainly because there was a lot of questions like, well, I mean, his health, would he even come out of retirement? I mean, 1 year of retirement, like there's no way you address all your health issues in just 1 year, right? Like he touches on that in this. The other question, too, is like, well, based on how the Reds run things, would that be something that you come out of retirement for? I mean, there seems to be a lot of handcuffs on how you could go manage a team that has so many restrictions, where assurance is given to them, this, that, and the other. But so the big question at the end of the day was also why? Why Cincinnati? Why the Reds? Why would you come out of retirement to manage the Cincinnati Reds? And that's what Terry Francona addressed right off the bat. Take a listen.
What was it about this team that piqued your interest and made you feel that this was the opportunity? And did you foresee yourself managing again?
I honestly didn't see myself managing again. I had a really good year away from the game. I needed to step away. I didn't step away because I didn't love the game. I stepped away because I didn't think I was doing the job up to the caliber I thought was necessary. Part of it's health, and a lot of it was health, and it was getting in the way. And as a manager, when you start becoming short, losing patience, it's not healthy. And I didn't want to shortchange the organization. So when I stepped away, I didn't think about managing a whole lot this year. And then when the Reds reached out, I started looking at the team a little more closely, and they came out to visit, and it just felt right. And it felt right kind of pretty close to the beginning of the meeting. We probably talked for 5 hours, and I was kidding, my palms were sweating, like I started getting, like I was like wanting to put my uniform on. So it just felt right.
It just felt right, he said. And I think the big takeaway I have from that is it just felt right. We know his background, 2-time World Series champion. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, this, that, and the other. But my big takeaway from that and how good I feel about that is that means the Reds did a good job.
Yeah.
The Reds made a good case for this too, because this wasn't just about getting back into baseball. There was going to be plenty of opportunities to get back into baseball. One example I threw out last week is keep an eye on the Yankees organization. If this collapse continues, which is not really a collapse, it's about what you expect with the Yankees anymore. The Yankees.
Jazz said the Royals just got lucky.
Well, yeah, you said it. But like, when you sit here and you look at that opportunity and all these others that could potentially pop up, I don't like the Reds' chances against those opportunities, but for them to sit down and he said right off the bat, it just felt right. I thought that was pretty cool because that meant to me, okay, the Reds are doing a very good job through this as well. They're not there begging. They're there making a presentation as well. That made him interested enough to say, okay, this just feels right off the bat.
Yeah, and it goes back to your point where you think that he kind of interviewed the Reds and saw where, the Reds were in a good spot to win and where they needed to fix different holes. And I still feel very, very confident that wherever he noticed holes in this roster, he asked for some assurances that they were going to be filled. And he said I'm sure we're going to get to it later, but the whole thing about this interview and him wanting to be here just makes me so much more confident that we're going to compete, because we've said time and time again that he's not coming out of retirement to go 83 wins and to go 500. That's not Terry Francona. That's not what he wants to do with his legacy. He just pushed back his Hall of Fame induction to come here and coach the Reds. And he's only doing that if he thinks this team has a chance to win. And that's, continues to be the message that he sets forth just in his first time talking with the manager, just, reassuring those feelings from Reds fans everywhere. And that's the biggest point.
Yeah, I think if the Reds were able to convince him, a Hall of Fame manager, to come back out of retirement despite health issues, health concerns, and entice him to want to be in Cincinnati, to want to be with Ellie De La Cruz. I think that's big on Nick Kroll, whoever was involved in that process. It was a good step by the organization to go out and actively pursue, because I don't know how many other managers they talked to. I imagine it was pretty much Terry right off the rip, and see if we can get the best available. Terry Francona, if that 5-hour conversation, if that was a pleasant and honest conversation, and that enticed him, I'm very happy to be a Reds fan right now, because that was that's all it took for them to go out and make effort into hiring the best available.
Yeah, I remember.
Real quick, I've never seen a move that's been so unanimously loved.
Yeah.
Have you? I'm trying to think of a time. There hasn't been one bad thing, except for Evan in the chat. There hasn't been one bad thing said.
Well,
about,
I don't think Brian B likes to hire either.
Brian B doesn't like to hire. Brian B and Evan. Other than those two, I haven't heard any bad things about Terry Francona, and I think that does matter. I think having a guy that everybody wants to rally around, I think that's a very good hire.
Yeah, I mean, we always find something to complain about in some capacity.
You know,
we have like at Ellie De La Cruz, and we just had the conversation last week. Like, we have a superstar player, and we're like, well, maybe you move him to the outfield. Well, maybe you play him at shortstop. Well, maybe you do this. It's like, can we just enjoy? Like, I play on that too. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, can we just enjoy? What do they? What in God's green earth could you find a problem with the hiring of Terry Francona? What is the problem?
Well, like 40 years ago, he didn't do very well in Philadelphia before he won 3 World Series. So, they're holding on to that, I guess. I don't know. The guy ended a pretty crazy drought in Boston, one of the biggest in the history of the sport, and then he goes to Cleveland and consistently wins.
And technically
with one
helped
of the lowest
Chicago in
payrolls
theirs.
in the history of the sport.
And was a rain delay away from winning a World Series.
He
so.
technically in Chicago and theirs too. I mean,
That's
he's a miracle worker.
That's
he
true.
helped. I mean, obviously led Boston.
And we don't
to
even
theirs.
need a World Series. We're not even talking about a World Series drought. We just need one playoff series win.
That's all I've ever
I
wanted.
want.
That's all I've ever wanted.
Man, I
Now,
mean,
if you'd like to win the next one after that,
I would take it.
but all we want is one.
Baby steps.
All we want is one.
Baby steps.
It kind of feels like, and this is where I'm going to look like a hypocrite, but it kind of feels like when Joe Burrow was drafted by the Bengals, you could feel a change in the organization pretty much immediately, because you knew that this guy was here to win, and we got the right guy, and this was the start of the new franchise. This is the start of the new Bengals. I think this is the start of the new Reds. I really do. I think this is a manager who knows what he's doing. He's had a history of success. He's outside the organization, though he did play with the Reds a long time ago. I think this was a good first move into a different direction of our organization. David Bell, I'm not going to sit out here and bash David Bell. I think he was serviceable during his tenure here. 3 winning seasons. That's half the winning seasons under this current ownership group. I'm not saying that's good, but I'm just saying that's what it was. And if this is the new step, the David Bell door that's been closed, the way the Reds have done things the past couple of years, it's over, and we're going to go a different direction. And I think that's cool.
Will the new Reds be more successful than the new Bengals? Because I'm already ready for the new Bengals.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we don't need a new Reds. Can we just rock with the new Reds for a while?
keep in mind what you can't do with that. Like the Bengals, obviously, and you know this, they're a lot further along in the new Bengals. They're in that, okay, how do you retain it? How do you keep it going, right? Like this Reds run, haven't even started it, but like it feels like they're on the cusp of like what Elliott said. When they drafted Joe Burrow, it just felt like
100%.
Okay, now we're rolling. Like that's the most difficult thing right there is getting that guy, and you got that guy now. And it just felt like it brought a breath of it changed the mindset of the front office, right? It's like, okay, the whole vibe of the organization changed. This isn't a player doing that, although they have that with Ellie. Ellie also, you got to wonder too, like having a player like Ellie. If they don't have Ellie, do the Reds go all out to try to get a Terry Francona? I'm not saying that they don't, but you wonder, we got Ellie De La Cruz. We got Ellie De La Cruz. Like we have something rare here. We got to go get something to pair with him to maybe make sure that we maximize what we get out of this guy during his time here.
They definitely don't. They definitely don't go out and get him because
okay.
they keep David Bell, and they keep David Bell until the sun burned out, because we would have no talent and there'd be no reason to get rid of him. You would just keep him forever. So yeah, this is a big move.
So the other big question now is, of course, we talked about this a lot as well, about what accountability means. We had Marty Brenneman on not too long ago. We had asked Marty his thoughts on, okay, what does accountability even mean in today's baseball? And in typical Marty form, it was a very old school approach. And it's kind of like what you guys have talked about. You don't know if that actually works in today's game or not, as far as that in-your-face kind of manager. Terry Francona is not that in-your-face kind of manager, but accountability is going to be very key with his approach to how to turn things around in Cincinnati. When he was asked about accountability, here's what new Reds manager Terry Francona had to say.
Terry, one of the buzzwords ever since the move with David was made was accountability and having accountability for this team. You talked about the talent, the athleticism, what this team has. How do you manage accountability with a young roster?
I don't know if I could give you that answer today. And the reason being is I'm not trying to cop out of not giving you an answer. But until you meet players, until you meet the staff, you have to build relationships with guys. Inevitably, when you're in a position of leadership, you're going to have to tell some guys things they don't want to hear. But the best way I know to do that is to develop a relationship built on honesty and trust. And that's the best way I know how to do it. And you got to remember, I mean, I've spent my entire life in a baseball locker room, in a clubhouse. There's no place I'm more comfortable. So having the conversations is maybe easier for me than maybe somebody coming in from outside. It's where I'm comfortable.
And again, that was Terry Francona kind of weighing in on the accountability front from yesterday, obviously saying, hey, I don't mean to not answer it, but I don't think there's one version of accountability. I think, one way to hold a team accountable in this clubhouse might be different than another. If you have a veteran-led group, accountability is different in that clubhouse versus accountability going into a younger clubhouse, which the Cincinnati Reds have, at least as of now. So that's the big key there. Elliot, I know we talked before the show. You said there was another clip that you had found that he talked about accountability as well.
And it kind of rattles. It kind of goes with that. It rattles off that, and it's basically do you want to bench guys? If somebody makes a mistake and they're going to continually making mistakes, is Terry Francona just going to bench him? Because I think that was a concern earlier this year. And when people want accountability, I don't know if they really knew what they meant last season. Because if you benched Elly De La Cruz after some of those errors, you're taking away your best player. That's not really what we're talking about when we're talking about accountability. And I think this quote plays off it perfectly.
What is your style if a guy repeatedly makes mistakes, makes base running mistakes, fielding mistakes? Are you a guy that benches a guy? Do you pull him behind a closed door and let him have it? Or what is your style when it comes to that kind of stuff?
I've probably done a little bit of both of those. Again, until you know who you're dealing with, I don't think there's a blanket way of saying you're going to deal with something. I do know when something goes wrong, my goal is to not have it go wrong again. If you get in the habit of meeting a player at the top step of the dugout, he's all amped up from the game. He's probably mad. I'm mad. You're going to butt heads. Okay, that's not really going to accomplish much, except maybe have an eruption. The goal is to just not have it done, the mistake happen over and over, and that's on me to figure out how to do that.
What is your style if a guy makes...
And that's perfect. I think that should make a lot of Reds fans happy right there, especially when you look at the issues that this team had just from a fundamental standpoint. We're going to pick up with this more again. It was over about an hour-long press conference yesterday as he was introduced to the city and to the media, of course. We're not going to have that whole hour for you, but we did pull some of the most important clips, at least that we believe to be the case, from yesterday's press conference. More off the bench, more reaction to Terry Francona's introductory press conference yesterday. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410, Wing AM in Dayton. Right before the break, of course, we got a chance to hear Terry Francona's kind of philosophy on accountability. Basically, as we talked about, it's not going to be the same in every single clubhouse. It obviously matters on the makeup of the roster and the makeup of the vibe and feel of the situation at hand anyways. But when you hear him, the thing that stood out to me the most is when he said, you know what? Like, my goal is to make sure that when a mistake happens that it doesn't happen again. And last year that seemed to be everyone's biggest frustration was when you watched one mistake happen, you'd watch it again probably later that game. You'd watch it in game 2 of the series. You'd probably watch it in game 3 of the series. And you're going to watch it probably in every series. Everyone was just wondering, like, what do you guys work on? Like, there's no improvement. The same mistakes from April were still the same mistakes in September. And it was like, there was just no improvement. What exactly are we doing from an accountability standpoint and a fundamental standpoint? When you hear a guy like Terry Francona say what he said, it does get fans' attention. And not that the fans' opinion on this matters to the most extreme, but it does make me as a fan feel pretty good about his philosophy and approach to how to, again, improve this team just from a fundamental standpoint.
I think you're going to see a new look when it comes to guys interacting with our manager. I don't think we had, and maybe I'm wrong on this, maybe I'm naive, and maybe I didn't pay enough attention, but it didn't seem like there was like a social aspect to David Bell with the guys in the clubhouse. Whenever I saw David Bell, it would just be, and again, this is just me looking at the TV broadcast. Do I know anything that happened? Absolutely not. But it seems like Terry Francona has a plan here. It seems like he's going to try to be involved in the everyday to build a relationship with these guys every single day, and I think that's going to matter. I think he's right. The quote before my quote, where you have to build a relationship first. You have to establish that foundation, and he's going to do that. And I don't think having accountability. I don't think that means benching guys. I think there's another way to do that. And I think there's another way to stop mistakes from happening. I think, and you're right, I think when you have a consistent error out in center field, which it was this year, no offense to Stuart Fairchild, but I'm going to pick on Stuart Fairchild. There were several instances this season where he would catch a ball and he wouldn't throw it in. And there was a guy on third and there's one out. How does that happen so frequently? The base running stuff. I love being aggressive. Being aggressive works for the Cincinnati Reds, especially with the speed that we have. But getting picked off at second base from home plate, that should never happen, let alone a couple times, 3 times this season. A pitcher shouldn't be able to pick off any of our guys to second base. It happens on first base, whatever. We can live with that one. But there are mistakes that can be fixed, and I think Terry Francona knows that, and I think that's why he's here. He's here to help, and he knows how to win baseball games. And that's what I take away here. Having accountability doesn't mean you just bench guys. It means you build the relationship, you work on your relationship, and you try to teach to fix it. That's what I took away.
I do think there's a disconnect amongst Reds fans, a couple different sects that have disagreements into what the issues with this team are. Obviously, we have the Ellie De La Cruz defensive debate a lot with the errors versus advanced metrics. We talk about strikeouts versus a lot of the other numbers he has. And then I think, like you just said there, base running is another big one there, where there's a big disagreement between some fans in this fan base that don't think that base running is a major issue because the aggression is what allows them to make so many other plays. So I think that ultimately the biggest thing is just the delivery of this press conference and what Terry's saying and how he's saying it. It's allowing you to buy in. I don't think it's necessarily fair to always talk about David Bell's accountability because we don't know what happened in the clubhouse. We just know that it didn't amount to wins. And to hear the new manager sound different, that's the only thing I care about because the other form didn't work and it didn't result in wins. And this sounds different than David Bell. So that's really what I'm taking away from this.
Again, there was a ton to take away from that yesterday. And there was one quote in there that got my attention where, you know, I think we all want we want to see the Reds win, and we want to see them kick some team's ass. And this is one of my favorite quotes yesterday from the introductory press conference, Terry Francona.
I think players like being coached. I think they enjoy working hard, but you got to be organized, and we will be, and we'll get after it. But you know, people talk about having fun. What I think is being enjoyable is playing the game right. And to be honest, trying to kick somebody's ass. That's what I think is enjoyable.
I think we all think that's enjoyable. I think we can all agree. That you know, kicking somebody's ass can be enjoyable, no doubt about it. And the Reds have been the team on the opposite end of that for far too long. And you hear that energy. And by the way, you see, like, he's a very loose, fun guy, but he goes, "We're gonna get after it." Like that was You could just feel it. Like, he's jacked to be back. I think the fans are feeding off that. The media is feeding off that. But that was, of all the clips that we're sharing and we'll share moving on throughout the show, that one caught my attention the most. We're going to get after it. We're going to be organized, and we're going to kick some ass. I think that right there, that's the clip that'll be my favorite for the rest of time as we head into this 2025 season, because, like, I felt that energy. And baseball is not an energy sport. You don't feel energy a lot of times. Like football, we talk about Dan Campbell all the time, an energy guy. I'm going to bite some kneecaps. This guy's a weirdo, but I want to run through a brick wall for him, right? Like, Zach Taylor is a very soft-spoken individual. You don't feel like you want to run through a brick wall for him, right? In football, baseball, you don't ever get that. We're getting that right now with Terry Francona, and that's the first time in hearing a baseball manager speak where I felt like, hell yeah, like I can't wait for baseball season now. I can't wait for Reds season. Baseball season's not done. The winning teams are playing right now. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, we had that conversation before the show. We said, did the Reds win the offseason? And then we had to take a step back and realize that the season's still going on for a lot of teams.
Well, yeah, but we don't watch that. In case you didn't watch any playoff baseball yesterday.
Baseball's regional, dude.
Well, you just ruined my. You ruined my point. You ruined my point. But that's okay. I did watch the Tigers game at Eli's, and I live bet the Tigers before the top of the ninth at plus money. That felt great to hit. Felt great. But back to our manager. Listen, I don't think David Bell was ever going to say. I hate to keep comparing to David Bell, but you have to.
That's the most recent manager.
That's that's why this move was made. And again, I don't hate David Bell. I don't dislike David Bell. I think he did a solid job with what he was given. A manager's job. A manager can only be as good as the talent around him. I will say Terry Francona did a lot with teams that did not spend money. So if you're a fan of the Reds and you're saying, well, we don't spend money, we don't do any of this, Terry Francona's had success at that. He's done the exact thing, and he's taken them to the peak that Nick Kroll likes to talk about. So that's the biggest takeaway I have, and to hear him say, I want to go kick somebody's ass on the baseball field, I think that's fun. I want to have a fun season again. This season killed every fun that we had from 2023. I want fun again in 2025.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously when it comes to that, he's managed teams who don't spend a lot of money.
Yep.
I know me and you spoke yesterday. You said, hey, the big question you have is like, okay, well, what about what about maybe some of the payroll conversations that they had? He said they had a 4 or 5 hour conversation. Was payroll brought up? Was it talked about? Were there some assurances made to kind of help him feel comfortable about managing and taking over the Cincinnati Reds team? He was asked about that. Here's his response.
Terry, this organization hasn't won a playoff series since 1995. Were you given any promises that they will put certain players on the field for you, or did you ask for that? Did you ask for them to go out and get X amount of players before you took the job?
Never even brought it up. We're going to start our meetings this afternoon after I get rid of this and put on something I can actually breathe in. You're gonna hopefully find. I hope you never hear me talk about payroll, things like that. What I care about is the players that we have, trying to get them to be the best baseball team they can be, whether they're 20, whether they're 30, or whether they're 40. And there'll never be an excuse when we play a game or lose a game on our youth or our payroll. Once the game starts, it doesn't matter. And again, I know what my job is, and I don't need to be the general manager. I don't need to be the president. I just want to try to be the best manager I can be.
All right. I wanted him to say a little bit more like, yeah, we're going to go spend. We knew he wasn't going to say that. We knew he wasn't going to say that. He wasn't going to give away all the information that's said behind closed doors. Truly, deep down, I still believe that the Reds weren't promising him that we're going to go be a top 10 spender in baseball. But I do believe that assurances were made that, hey, we're going to do what we have to improve this roster. And to be fair with all of us in this room, not once have we ever really screamed from the mountaintop that this team needs to be top 10 in spending. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that they need to be top 10 in spending, but the spending needs to reflect that they are efforting to fill holes on the roster and improve. And at times they've done that. I'm not going to act like this team is the Guardians where they absolutely spend no money year in and year out. This team has spent money. You can question where the money goes at times, but they're willing to fork over money. It's not as if this organization it's not the cheapest organization in baseball. It's actually not even close. But it is interesting hearing him say that. That is one way to look at it. He's like, hey, and that's kind of like the Guardians. I bring up their payroll, but while they're winning, no one's talking about their payroll. In fact, it's spun into a positive. Look how little we spend and look how competitive we are. As much as I said that's bad for baseball, and I don't like that, that's only because I know that our team doesn't need more excuses not to spend. But hey, if the Reds are a playoff team year in and year out, and they're winning their division and have the best, fighting for the best record in baseball, and they bottom 5 in spending every year, I guess I wouldn't be against that. I'll be a hypocrite. I don't care. But it was interesting hearing him say that payroll. He hopes he never talks payroll because he never wants that to be an excuse. We're not good because we don't spend. It was interesting hearing that perspective.
I saw a lot of people taking this as a assurement that they were going to spend this offseason. I didn't necessarily think of it the same way. I think a lot of people think Terry Francona is going to go into the front office and say, you have to spend to support this team. But if he was going to do that, why didn't he do that in Cleveland when they weren't spending any money and he was able to win anyway? I think Terry Francona is very confident in the core of this roster, and that's why he came. I do think the Reds, I fully expect them to supplement this roster with pieces. But for all of us to go off the deep end here and think we're going to go attack the top of the free agent market now that we have Terry Francona, it's not going to change that drastically. We're going to hopefully try to open a window here to compete for a World Series, and that requires some free agent signings. But I don't think the Reds are going to do a complete 180 on organizational philosophy and go throw $300 million at Juan Soto. This is going to be virtually a similar Reds offseason. Just you hope that you can hit on some of those guys. Instead of misses like Candelario and Moustakas, you get a few Castellanos, and then you'd be in a pretty good spot. So, I don't know what to exactly expect from the Reds on the free agent market, but I don't know how much we're going to need if Terry Francona is able to get the most out of a lot of the guys we have here already. So, certainly still very excited about Francona, but I didn't necessarily take this quote the same as a lot of other people.
Yeah, I saw the reaction to this when we tweeted it last night or yesterday afternoon. There was definitely two ways. There was the one way that was, oh, well, great. The David Bell stuff is going to come right back because nobody's going to spend any money and the roster is going to be the same. And then I also saw the other side where it was right off that initial quote, I hope I never have to talk about payroll, and people took that as we're going to spend money, so I'm never going to talk about it. I think you can take it both ways. I think you can take that quote both ways. And I'm going to say that the Reds are going to spend money because if they didn't, he wouldn't be here, and we all know that. So if he said, and which he did, if he says that when games start, he's going to be ready to manage a winning team, that's what I care about.
Yep.
That's all I care about. The money thing matters, but we all know that we're well behind the 8 ball when it comes to spending money in Major League Baseball. There's a gap that can't be filled. The Yankees are the Yankees, and we are the Cincinnati Reds. It's us. It's the Athletics. It's the Guardians. It's the Royals. It's the Tampa Bay Rays. We're all at the bottom together. Now the teams I just mentioned there, some of them have been not terrible over the past couple of years. The Royals are in the playoffs. The series is tied 1-1 against the New York Yankees, and they just won the series before against the Baltimore Orioles. There is a method to this madness. The Reds last year, and I still don't think it clicked for a lot of the people that wanted David Bell fired. The whole roster was decimated. That wasn't the roster that was promised at the beginning of the year. It wasn't. Saying that, and you saw it last year with the last month when we didn't have a starting pitcher available. Not one. We played an entire month and a half of baseball without a starting pitcher until Rhett Lauder got the call. So I think this year, if Terry Francona is going to have a healthy roster, that's all that matters to me.
So with that too, and again, you talked about it. I was curious people's reaction when he said that. For one, if those assurances were made, you're not going to put that out there because then that puts pressure on the front office to spend money. The second thing is it's one of those things where go win baseball games, we don't talk about money as much. When you lose baseball games, it's, well, you're not even spending money to get good players, so of course you get what you pay for as far as that goes. And you look at the Guardians, too. My big argument on that has always been, everyone's like, well, why does it matter? Why do you care how much they're spending? If they're winning, they don't have to spend money. And I'm like, yes, I think it's impressive that they're able to put a World Series or a top record in baseball contender out there without spending money. But imagine if you're that good and you develop that well and, you're able to, have a good, franchise to be able to continue win at that level without spending money. Imagine how much better you would be if you did spend money. Like, there's
Right.
still levels to go up. It's not like they're at the very top of their game. They could even be better. That's why I'm like, as a Guardians fan, I would actually be frustrated about that. I wouldn't wear that as a badge of pride of, oh my gosh, look how good we are and we don't even spend money. I would be frustrated saying, hey, we still have deficiencies that we could have used that money we're not spending on and made us a very, very, probably the most complete team in baseball. So for the Reds, to Jacob's point, I don't think they're going to go out and drop a ton of money this offseason. But what I do think that Terry Francona, his aura that's going to matter the most when it comes to that front office, when they do need something, they're going to get it. Doesn't mean, we need a starting pitcher. They're not going to go get the best starting pitcher, but they're going to go get a veteran pitcher that can come in and help fill the gaps. If they're, weak in the outfield and they need to go get somebody, they're going to go get it, right? Like, I don't think it's one of those where we're going to go revamp the entire roster and go put, $25 million a year guys on every single position that we can find. It's just going to be, we're going to spend money when it's needed and not just, we have a guy that's in AA that we're hoping could fill that gap here in 2 years. I think they'll approach problems with more urgency. And I think that's going to be the biggest change with Francona leading the way. Nonetheless. All right, there's one more question that everyone has with Terry Francona that we'll answer on the other side, and then we'll transition over to the NFL, Bengals, and college football, and that's the health. All right, he came out of retirement. He had to retire from the Guardians because, of health issues, right? But he retired for 1 year. Did he address all those health issues in 1 year? How concerned as Reds fans should we be? We know how excited we are for what the ceiling could be with him as manager, but we also know at any moment could those same health issues resurrect themselves and come back and, of course, lead to him not being in the clubhouse, not being in the dugout for the Reds throughout the season. He addressed that with the media yesterday. We'll get to that when we come back, and then we'll get to some Bengals talk around the corner as Jacob is just itching to get to that. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here. This is Off the Bench on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube and ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. Now, we've spent a lot of time on Terry Francona. We're about to wrap up our conversation about Terry Francona's introductory press conference yesterday. Obviously, health, the big question still, right? Like, we're all still wondering, okay, how healthy is he? Is he healthy enough to come back and lead this team and the health not be a distraction that it was in Cleveland down the stretch? Before we get to that clip from there, I mean, so far every question we've had technically was addressed in that press conference yesterday.
Yeah. That's the most important thing, is because I think there weren't that many major questions about Francona, but the ones that did exist were reasonable. I think hearing him speak is certainly a big thing as we get excited for this Red season, and he did answer most of those questions. And the biggest one for me also was his health, because he was managing a team that was pretty good. And he stepped away, and now he's, the Guardians are very, very successful with a manager that was never in the MLB before. So a lot of people have also been doing the whole, well, how much did he mean to that organization type of thing? But it doesn't change the fact that I'm incredibly excited for Francona here in Cincinnati, and for him to reassure us on his health is very, very important.
Yeah. I think we're going to play the clip here, I believe, but it was refreshing to hear that it's not going to be an issue. He's not coming back to manage 162 game seasons if he didn't believe that he was ready to roll.
Yeah.
And I think having that worry just axed. And I think Nick Kirby said it too on Chatterbox Reds. He left. He had stints with Cleveland where he wasn't there for a couple games. Like he was gone month. And that team was still able to win without him. He's going to build a culture. We like to use that word. He's going to build a culture that's able to win. He's going to have a system that can win without him there, if something were to go wrong.
In this clip, he was asked about a couple things, obviously his health, but there are a couple takeaways from this next clip that makes you think that we keep talking about this 3-4 year window of him as manager. We're like, oh, this is going to be a short stint. It could potentially be a short stint as manager, but could it be a long stint as him involved with the organization? Take a listen. He's asked about the health, but obviously asked about, his mindset on, will he ever retire? That was also asked. Take a listen.
Yeah, Terry, we heard a lot about your health coming out of last season. What's your health like now? You look like you've slimmed down quite a bit. And did I read right? Did you have surgery in the offseason? Also, just a follow-up to that. After going through this process, do you think you'll actually ever retire?
Now you got to know your audience. Go one at a time. I'll never remember the second question.
The health.
Yeah, my health You know what? It's real. I mean, I've had a lot of things go wrong. God, and I didn't even really play that much. If I'd have played a lot, I'd probably really be a mess. But I took care of myself this year, and I had gotten into a routine or a habit where I'd have a surgery when the season was over. I'd work real hard, and then I'd get beat up again when the season started. Being away for a year, it allowed me to take care of myself probably for the first time. And I did, and I lost weight, and I still have a ways to go. But I feel like I'm in a position where I can have enough energy to do the job the way I think you're supposed to. Because that wasn't how it was at the end in Cleveland. And like I said, I felt like I was shortchanging people.
So the follow-up to that is, as good as you feel now and going through this process, you think you'll actually retire from baseball at some point for real?
You know, I don't think I'll ever fully get out of baseball. I don't think I ever wanted to. You know, the managing part, you know, like I said, I don't look too far ahead. I just try to kind of do what I'm supposed to right now and see how long that goes. But, you know, and health certainly plays a part in that. But as long as I love the challenge and I'm able to do it, I don't think we need to talk about retirement.
That's interesting because we all, when he got hired right away, that's why we put up the debate. You know, do you go all in for the next 3-year window with the contract that he signed? You know, as far as go all in, again, maximize the time that he's the manager. I still don't think he's manager a long time, but it does sound like he wants to be involved with baseball an absolute long time. And you got to wonder if you're the Cincinnati Reds, you have a plan in place. Obviously, he's your manager. But obviously, we hope he's the manager for quite some time. But after hearing that, there's part of me that if he's going to be involved in baseball for many, many years, I hope that every single one of those years is with the Cincinnati Reds. As many of them as we can as managers, as much as he's able to do it. But to have a baseball mind like his in that front office in some capacity, because you would like to think at some point as he gets older, you transition to that point to begin with. I would love to see that he's a long-term Cincinnati Red, not just as manager, but maybe even beyond in a bigger role as far as that's concerned.
I don't think you can take baseball away from people. When people who have been involved with it as long as Terry Francona has, I don't think you just get to rip that part of them out and you're done. You're retired. I saw an interview on TikTok, and I know it's different, but I saw an interview it was a Cam Newton interview, and the reporter, she asked him, "Are you done? Are you done with football?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm done." And she said, "Are you done up here? Or are you done in here?" And he said, "I'll never be done in here." And I don't think you can take that away. I don't think you can take it away from Terry Francona. So if he wants to be a part of the Reds for as long as possible, I'll have him. And I'm going to temper my expectations. I'm going to try not to get too excited this season and say they're going to win 88 games. I know what the team is right now, and as of right now, the roster is not a playoff roster.
Right.
But I think we'll see this season what Terry Francona can do. I think you're going to see a change immediately right off the rip. The health thing, as long as he's able to manage and as long as he feels great, that's all I care about. I'm hoping that the health concerns are past us for now. But again, if they are, I trust him to build a staff that is able to preach his message if he were to miss time. So I couldn't be more ecstatic about this hire.
Yeah, and like you said, he's not coming out of retirement for a 162-game season if he didn't think he was ready for it, and that's exactly what he's saying there. If he already doesn't want to leave baseball and he hasn't even started coaching in a dugout again, I would imagine when that first pitch is thrown on opening day, he's going to be even happier to be back. So, I mean, obviously, health is something that's incredibly volatile and can change in a very, very short period of time, especially with a guy with the history he has and the age he is. But nonetheless, he's calming those concerns as much as anyone can at this point. It's there's no negatives to the hiring of Terry Francona, and that's why it's moderately annoying to see the people trying to find him, because it's like we finally have something that we can just be happy about, at least for a few months.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows how it goes when the season starts, but at least for a few months here, Reds fans can be happy and optimistic and look forward to this team and the future of this organization, and we haven't been able to say that in a long time. So this press conference is just a cherry on top of what was a great, great weekend for Reds fans.
Yeah.
By the way, there's no scenario in my head that exists that this doesn't work. But these are those things in sports that drive me nuts, and we're conditioned to think this way. Like, let's say that Tito comes in and doesn't win anything with the Reds.
Yeah.
oh man, the Reds, I guess that was a bad hire. No. Like, we don't know what the next chapter is with this Francona era, but I'm here to tell you, as of right now, on October 8th, 2024, we don't know what's next. We know what we anticipate with the addition of him. But I'm not one of those that, I wait for the result to say if it was a good move or not. You got to make a move right now that you're anticipating what this person brings to the table. I view sports like this in all realms, right? Like Jacksonville Jaguars, when they hired Urban Meyer, there was a lot of things to be concerned about. But I was like, do I look back and say that was a bad hire? It was a bad result. Bad hire? How could you bring in a two-time national champion, a football lifer to help your franchise? It didn't work. It was a bad result. I don't know if it's a bad hire, right? Like that's I view things differently than most. I know I'll get pushback there. No matter what, and I'm not comparing Tito to Urban Meyer by any means, so let's make that clear. I'm here to tell you that right now this is the absolute best hire that the Cincinnati Reds could have made. It's not even close. Anyone out there that has concerns because of what he did with Philadelphia 4 decades ago, like, I don't know what to do. You must be a miserable person all the time if that's the case, because this is just not one of those situations where you can literally say, I don't know. What do we know? If we're not happy about Terry Francona, we don't know anything about anything then, because this was the absolute best. I said it, last week and most of this week, and it's only Tuesday. But when the Reds have a need, they need to go get a pitcher. Never do they ever go get the best pitcher in baseball. Oh, they need a first baseman. Never do they ever go get the best first baseman in baseball or the best outfielder in baseball. They're going to go get one that financially makes sense and that can contribute. Right now, they needed a manager, and they got the best manager in baseball. That's an all-time cherry on top for the Cincinnati Reds. I don't know what's going to come next for the Reds, but I'm here to tell you, even if it doesn't go well, this was the absolute best hire that the Reds could have made, and I'm excited for what's next.
Yeah,
simple as that.
100%. If the Cincinnati Reds are able to be moderately successful under Terry Francona, this was the obvious choice. It was the right hire. And we'll see where we go from here. I'm excited for next year. There's more excitement and optimism than I feel like there was last year coming into the year, and that's saying a lot, because we had all of the joys and the highs of that 12-game winning streak. You get to see Ellie and Matt for the first time. It all comes down to the roster construction, and I know what you're saying when they never go out and get the best available.
Best of the bet, yeah.
But I do think, and I'm going to quote Moneyball. I hate to quote the movie Moneyball, but it's my favorite movie, and I like it. You can replace those players in the aggregate. I do believe that. I know it's kind of a joke now. It's a meme, but I do think you can find players that aren't the best available that can give you production. We got Mike Moustakas, who at the time was probably the best available infielder, wherever you want to call him, and we got him. And he was terrible, and you could have replaced his production with anybody, literally anybody, in Major League Baseball. It just comes down to, can you fit the right guy into our clubhouse? And I think with a guy like Terry Francona, more of those guys are going to fit.
Yeah. And real quick to piggyback off that, no, you could replace the best with production, especially in baseball more than anything. We watch the Nationals. I mean, name another sport where you could lose your absolute best player and then go on to win a championship the next year. The Nationals, they don't, they lose Bryce Harper, and then the Nationals go on to win a World Series next year. That doesn't happen in any other sport. You could replace the production to a certain point, and there could have been another manager out there that can come in and do similar things as Francona as far as maximize this roster and be better than what the Reds have been. But I just meant, like, as far as, like, it's rare that I know for my team, when any team that I follow, it's rare that my team goes out and gets the best option at something, the number one option,
Brown's
not
got
the best option available, but the best option, the best talent at something. And I think that's pretty unique. I think that's pretty cool. That's why I'm celebrating this move, because we're all shocked. Baseball guys are shocked. National media was shocked because, really? The Reds? And I saw Reds fans. By the way, Reds fans crap on their team more than any other fan base, more than any other sport I know. But then that clip that went out when I said, well, why would Francona come to the Reds? Oh, my God, every Reds fan lost their mind. What do you mean? Why wouldn't he want to come here? Now all of a sudden this is the best place on earth.
It's a baseball town.
It's a baseball town.
That's what this is. It's a baseball town here in Cincinnati. We love our Cincinnati Reds. We just get frustrated when they never win.
Yep,
That's
fair enough.
After 162 games, you get a little tired. And after 1,000 games, whatever we're up to over the past 10 years or so, whatever it's been, I get more frustrated, and I get more frustrated as each decade passes. So this is the start of something new. This is the new era of Cincinnati Reds baseball. The old era's gone. It's a new regime. It's a new time to be a Reds fan. Hop on the bandwagon now. Casey, the bandwagon tickets, those are available to repurchase. You lost them last season, but now they're back.
Sure. Yeah.
I would say I'm back in after being out after game 162, but I was out after like game 104.
Yeah, I was out.
Like 95.
I was out. It was after
Yeah.
it was after the Nationals swept the Reds after the All-Star break.
Yeah. So look, it's really really good to get back in on the Reds before opening day when I didn't know if that was going to be possible.
Well, I'm excited for it, no doubt. And again, no Reds Fest. That kind of stinks. But nonetheless, opening day. How far away are we?
A couple hundred.
I always thought baseball's not
I
that.
will have that number if the Bengals lose to the Giants on Sunday Night Football. I will have the number of days till opening day on the front of my mind if the Bengals lose to the Giants.
Ron Esterman with a good chat here. The Reds have not won a playoff series in 29 years.
Thanks, Ron.
I agree, Ron.
that is true.
It'll change this year or next year. One of the two.
Maybe the year after.
Maybe the year after, depending.
And then maybe get the fourth year option if not.
Fourth year option if those three didn't work.
Correct.
Or
And
if
you
they
know
did
what? Good general manager. Good GM we have, at the end of the day. All right, off the bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Casey's going to pay some bills. I saw someone in the chat say it's pizza time, and of course you got to do it. Do it.
It's pizza time.
That's
Ray
right.
Romano.
That's what we're calling our pay the ad segment. It's pizza time.
I love
now.
that. I
So-
like that Ray Romano, after saying
Ray
it's pizza time,
Romano.
always reminds everyone that he's Ray Romano.
Just so you know, there's a few listeners in Dayton that message the show that get really pissed at the imitation
Yeah.
segment, and I'm leaning into it now. I love it even more.
They don't like my imitations.
Oh, they can't stand it, and I love it.
Why don't they like pizza time? Casey, you told me that was good.
It is good.
I've heard
No,
it's good.
and I'm not telling you that because it's bad. That means it's good. I love it. I love it. So one more time, this is a YouTube-only segment. And what is that segment, Elliot?
Pizza time.
No.
What are you talking
You
about?
took some off. You
gotta leave it all on there.
Yeah, this is like a
Leave
supreme
all the
pizza,
meat
not
on
a
the bone.
cheese
It's
pizza.
a pizza time.
There we go.
Better.
And I'm Ray Romano.
There we go.
Tune in to Everybody Loves Raymond every night on TV Land.
Nick at Night? Is
Not
that still a
anymore.
thing?
I think it's on TV Land. The channel's TV Land. It's
Like
they
with
play
Bewitched
for
and all
4
that
hours
old
every
stuff?
night.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Great stuff here. We'll be right back. More Off the Bench when we come back.
I'm doing the Lord's work for TV Land. Nobody's ever seen TV Land until I brought them up.
Oh, can we send that clip to TV Land and ask for significant amounts of money?
I think we could. They could be the new sponsor.
They
TV
could
Land.
sponsor the whole show.
So they're going to be the sponsor of all of our ads.
Presented by UDF and TV Land.
Yeah. Our ad.
Oh, yeah, because we come to Radio Land and we leave Radio Land to go to TV,
TV
Land
Land.
for TV Land ads. Oh, my God.
Dot
It's
connected.
perfect.
Oh my Lord. You just did something there. And I'm going to do something here. Pay the bills. You hear that?
I do hear that sloshing.
It's the smoothness of Pawnee water going back and forth between this bottle. Made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing other brands use. Result being a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNI-water.com so you can buy this great tasting water. Love Pawnee Water.
Oh, wait. Can you throw it to me?
All right, here we go. You ready? Look at that.
Now back to you. You ready?
Yep.
Yes. And the camera looked good on that one.
When you weren't here, I threw it really hard at Elliot and he didn't catch it.
I have them all. Every day I'm recording them, and eventually we're just going to combine them all.
I love that.
It's going to be your highlight reel. So there
I'm
you
going to
go.
send that into Toledo.
The combine.
Combine.
I could get drafted.
9 years.
9 years. You give me 9 years unlimited funds and Terry Francona to coach me up, I'll be ready to roll.
Love to hear it. The Bengals Report, proudly sponsored by Encore Technologies. At Encore, they deliver cutting-edge IT solutions for a data-driven world, from mobile computing and desktop support to advanced data center solutions. They help businesses enhance efficiency.
Productivity. Oh, shoot.
And
Productivity.
One of these days I'll get it.
good job, Jimbos. Visit encore.tech where your path to innovation begins. And Game Time. Love Game Time app. ticketing sponsored app here at Chatterbox Sports. I used it all summer long. Go to Reds games. Loved it. Used it a few times to go to FC games. Loved it. Always had great deals. You can see exactly where you're sitting at. Excuse me. They have great deals. They have game time pick filters. Kind of help you get rid of all that fluff so you can see exactly what you're looking for. It's fantastic. They got deals right now for Eagles at Bengals tickets starting at $181 right now. Jelly Roll, that's in November 4th at Heritage Bank for $99.
Buckeye Countries.
West Virginia comes to town.
Kane Brown.
And Cincinnati here for the college football game. $50.
50.
50. Yep, that's right.
Just 50 doubloons.
Yeah. Yeah, check them out. They got plenty of great events going on right now. Lots of concerts. Disney on Ice. That's this Friday.
Disney on Ice.
Um,
I haven't been on ice in a long time.
Well, you can get on ice with Game Time.
You can.
It's
Take the
Game
guesswork
Time.
out of buying tickets with Game Time and download the Game Time app. Create an account and use OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it, fellas?
It's game time.
That's right.
What time is it, Kenner?
It's
It
game
is
time.
game. It is game time.
It's game time.
Casey.
It's game time.
What time is it, everyone?
It's Game Time.
Game time, Casey. Game time.
It's game time.
What?
That's right. It's Game Time. Check them out. Download the app.
Homie,
Love to hear it.
where's Bart and Lisa, homie? Because it's game time.
Bart and Lisa are at the game thanks to the cheapest tickets possible.
Because
All
of,
in pricing thanks
because
to
of,
Game Time.
Because of game time.
Is that
I'm Bart
Marge and
Simpson.
Ray Romano sitting side by side at the game?
Hopefully Fox doesn't
It's
come and get
pizza time. And I'm Ray Romano.
Wait, no, that's Mark.
You know, we haven't heard Madison in a while.
Yeah, how's he doing?
How's he doing?
I think they're 7-0.
I'm James Madison, everybody. Ray, pizza, Ray.
It's pizza. I can't even do both. I can't do both. I'm locked in my brain. This is why people like this show. I saw somebody on Twitter a while ago say, I only watch Chatterbox Reds because they're serious and Off the Bench isn't.
True.
True.
Yeah. Not much more to say.
Yeah, we're not very serious
on that one.
But we like to have fun. If you like to have fun, tune in. If you don't like to have fun, you can go. They're talking about another show. I was going to mention it, but I'm not going to
Shouldn't
do
do
that.
that.
I'm not going to do that because no free ads.
Well, like,
But I was going to say it.
Muffin maker.
I don't get the reference.
It's the host of the show.
I know. I got the reference immediately. But that's it. Jacob, Chatterbox Bengals tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Or tonight, sorry.
Well, no. Not
sorry.
actually no Chatterbox Bengals tomorrow.
So I know. I messed up. I stopped myself. Tonight at 6 o'clock.
That's right. Tonight at 6 p.m. Me and Craig
you
will
and
be
Craig.
talking about this Ravens loss, probably for not the last time. Usually Tuesday's the last time, but I feel like this one might linger. So we're going to be talking about the Ravens loss. Come join us at 6. Some positive. Pulled in some Joe Burrow highlights. He looks really good.
You guys should just do an offensive show tonight.
We certainly have enough content to do a defensive show.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah, come check it out tonight. It should be a good show.
love to hear it.
Love to hear it. Yeah. Other housekeeping items, please hit the like button. Share this show with a friend. Share all
said
the
that
other
before.
shows with a friend. And give those shows a like as well, including Chatterbox Bengals.
I'll give a shout out to somebody real quick.
Okay. This is definitely going to go well.
No, it's going to go well. Matthew Pounds is his name. And Matthew DM'd me and said he likes the show and he watches it every day. Helps him get through third shift. So thank you, Matthew. Thank you very much for listening and watching. I'm actively talking to Matthew in DMs. So
Very nice.
thank you. Haro, member for 12 months. Elliot, can you rip into the Bengals defense in the Dobby voice?
Yes.
12 months is big time.
I got to lock it.
We finally get to see
What's
the
the Dobby
final
voice?
stage
I
of
gotta
the nut cutter.
The 12-month nut cutter?
No, they've
Yeah,
had
have
that.
you guys seen it yet?
No.
I think
You should
that's
take a closer look at it.
What
whenever
is
you
it?
get
I
a
think
chance.
that's the Captain Peanut. Oh, is that?
It's Tom.
Oh, that's Tom's face on a peanut, man?
It's Tom's face on Mr. Peanut.
Mr. Peanut.
You edit that stuff. You can edit that stuff.
Oh, yeah. So when we set
That's
him
big
up,
time.
we got to change it to like to a 24-month. 24-month, you get like keys to our office. Stuff like that. You get
24 months. It's just like
I'll
free.
I'll
use
hang
of
my
our products.
2003 Chevy Impala keys on the door. Remember, for 36 months, you just get to go for a test drive.
When you get a new car, because the trade-in for your car, not gonna move the needle. So you should just give
Right.
your car to whoever the longest-standing member at the time of purchase is.
Okay, I like that. I like that a lot, actually, because it's honestly, what am I going to get for my car? $500 when I throw that.
You're gonna get one of these.
I'll get a handshake. I'll get a handshake. Yeah, I'll give it to. Let's see. I'll give it to a chatter. I think Fetters is in
You can
line.
rig the draw
Howard's
to Mark
in
Fetters.
line.
You can rig the draw to give it to Mark Fetters, like you've
That's
done
fair.
before.
I might give it to Brian. I might want to give it to Brian, even though he's
Brian
not
B
a
would
member.
have to love the show. Admit he loves the show, because we
Yeah.
know he loves the show. Brian B
Yeah.
would have to admit he loves the show to get the keys to your car, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm going to try to pull up this.
Uh-oh.
Love to hear it.
I can't see it. It's too blurry.
Oh.
I tried to save the image. But you can see the outline of Tom's face with the hat and the peanut. Yeah.
There we go.
I'll have to find that original image. Cause
Oh, yeah.
Trace and I spent some time editing that baby up.
If we
That was
could,
great.
while we're talking about new stingers and everything, maybe we get subtitles for the intro to Elliot's thing, and we have Tom's Mr. Peanut like bounce across
Oh, I
them
like that.
as it sings. Just putting a lot on Casey's plate to animate Tom's Peanut, but he did read sliding
Casey,
in
can
the
you
intro.
can you animate
and
the
I
Peanut?
really
Right,
want an
animate
animated
Tom's
Tom
Peanut.
Peanut.
And we can make actually a TV show about it.
And we could air it on
TV Land.
That's right. The new, hopefully, sponsor of this segment.
Your Blue's Clues stinger is still one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
That one was pretty good. The first time I saw that.
Can you give Harry a sock? That's Dobby.
No, that's weird. What did you just say?
Can you give Harry a sock? Did you not watch Harry Potter,
No,
bro?
that's not. And based on his response, him and I heard the same damn thing.
A sock. What did I say? What did I say? Can you give Harry a sock?
There it is again.
That was the whole point of Harry Potter.
No, I don't think it was.
I'm pretty sure that was the whole
I don't know what kind
storyline.
of
Was Harry
weird
had to give
animated
Dobby the
stuff
sock?
is in your search engine, but my goodness.
What did I say? I don't even know.
Kids
I said
show, dude.
Just say it really slow one more time for us.
No, I don't want to say it. You guys are making me scared now.
No,
I was just doing Harry Potter.
I love that. I got to go back and rewatch that because I think that pause was like, what?
There's no way.
Let's go back to the radio. You guys made me feel bad about my Dobby impression.
No, that was my favorite.
You know,
though. That's the
if-
thing.
if
We're
he's
not
gonna
even mad at it.
If you get any more English there, it sounds real close to the thing.
Oh my God.
Did anyone in the chat pick up on that?
Most, if not all.
I can see why Tom left, says all right.
Holy cow.
Okay, that's it. Let's go back to Radioland.
All right, Radioland, here we go.
All right, do the Dobby impersonation. No,
I'm not
maybe
doing more
not
Dobby.
for radio.
I'm
Not
not
for
doing
radio.
more Dobby.
Ooh, not for radio.
Oh, man.
That was something. And by the way, our radio listeners, we appreciate you. But if you tune in to Off the Bench, 10 a.m. to noon on YouTube, that's where you don't miss out on the stuff that just happened during that little.
That's
break
right.
there.
I mean, vanilla ice cream is good. We all like vanilla ice cream, but that the YouTube only ad break is like when you add sprinkles and chocolate sauce to the vanilla ice cream. Off the Bench is a phenomenal show on 1410 Wing AM, but you got to check in on YouTube for the chocolate sauce and sprinkles because that's Elliot during the ad breaks because it's more impressions, and we know you guys love the impressions.
So impressions.
I'm really
Elliot
good at impressions.
catches water bottles. Casey stares blankly at Elliot sometimes and says, "Love to hear it." I mean, there's a lot of good stuff.
Casey's favorite bit on the YouTube only ad breaks is not cutting the camera when we're done speaking
Yeah.
and just really letting it air out on,
Yeah,
on
that
the
you
shot.
do do that.
And it
Stares
makes
into your
it
soul.
real awkward.
Maybe.
Man. But nonetheless, we welcome you back. I promise there are a lot of people that listen to this show. I do promise you that, okay, on the radio side. In fact, yesterday, so get this, like, you know, not everyone. You're not going to appease everybody, right?
Right.
There's going to be some people that are upset. So Billy, well, I won't say his last name, but a guy named Billy messages into the show yesterday. And I'm trying to figure out at what point of the show, because I thought yesterday was just a reactionary. Like, there's some days like today where I'm like, I'm waiting. I'm just waiting to get something. Like, what the hell is that? So this individual says, Off the Bench is by far the worst sports show I've ever heard. It should be on the air at midnight. At least he's saying it should be on air. I appreciated that.
We'll take that.
The ratings, this is where I got him. The ratings have to suffer when the show comes on, and I can't believe you put that on instead of ESPN programming. Now, some of you are saying, why would you read that? That makes your show look bad. You would think if he was right. My favorite thing is when people say stuff like that, and when I counter with, well, we are, not every show will appease everybody. We appreciate that you listen and give us a chance. But according to the Nielsen ratings, the official Nielsen ratings, this is the most listened to sports talk show in the city during that time. More people listen to it than Colin Cowherd. All right. So I'm just saying, I think we were doing okay.
Are you saying we're better than Colin Cowherd?
We're doing better than Colin Cowherd. I can honestly say that is a Nielsen rated supported thing. And I'm big on statistics and I'm big on analytics and the analytics
That's
show.
right, you are.
You've
always
I'm all
been
for
on him.
Nielsen. So what does the guy do? He blocks me. Doesn't say, oh, good
That's
point.
good stuff.
He just blocks me. I'm like, all right, thanks for doing business.
Billy, was that his name? William?
Billy. Yep.
William, thanks for listening, brother.
That's right. Hey,
You have yourself a Tuesday.
You know what I think of that?
What?
Right here.
Right there.
Good stuff.
That's what I think of that.
Good stuff. Alabama.
Nah, we're not going to do that.
I think we have to.
Nah, I
We
don't
have
think so.
to. We have to.
No
we have
thanks.
to be a serious sports talk show at some point today. Nonetheless.
All right.
A little college football. We'll close out with some Cincinnati Bengals talk. For the radio audience, because we didn't do it on radio, Chatterbox Bengals, Jacob.
That's right.
Obviously, you're one half of Chatterbox Bengals. Tell everyone, for all Bengals fans who want to get extra Bengals programming, you wanted to, last week? I mean, what was the viewership that you guys got up to? Almost 10,000?
We had over 10,000 watch the stream on Sunday for the game, which was phenomenal. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in and watching the game with us. And then tonight, we're going to break down the film and all that good stuff. Some good, some bad, mostly bad. But we're going to do all that tonight at 6 p.m. on the Chatterbox Sports YouTube channels. We'll be live, and then shortly after we're done, it'll be available everywhere that you listen to podcasts. So if you can't join us live, feel free to download it there and tune in on any app that you listen to podcasts. So thanks, everyone, for all the support with Chatterbox Bengals. And if you want to check it out, same place you see everything else, Chatterbox Sports YouTube.
All right, and again, we'll get to some Bengals stuff coming up here in a moment. Zach Taylor was asked about, well, basically what you two talked about yesterday. We'll get to this in a moment, but Elliott just said he's over the fact that this team is constantly getting off to a slow start. Zach Taylor was asked about that. His answer won't make Elliott happy. And then he was asked, of course, about the 3 straight running plays that were called, in that overtime that ultimately they just settled for the field goal. And when asked about if he would go back and redo it, well, his answer is not going to make Jacob happy and maybe not make a lot of Bengals fans happy. So we do have that coming up. Do want to talk a little college football because this past weekend, of course, 5 of the top 11 teams lost. 5 of the top 11 teams lost, and the one loss that, of course, has everybody talking more than any other, and no, I'm not doing this just because Jacob's sitting over here, but Alabama. No one's going to feel bad for Alabama, but I will say I didn't call the upset by any means, but I did call the situation being a little bit dangerous, mainly because of the fact that, hey, you have a new coach in DeBoer who I think is doing still a very good job. I know many people are a little frustrated with him right now, and rightfully so. But you have an emotional high of high as you are building up to play Georgia. You know you have the locker room's attention all week. Every single player is locked in. Every single player is locked in during film session. Every single player is locked in through walkthroughs and practice, everything. They are zeroed in. They are ready to go. And then, of course, the game arrives. Jacob was at that game. The atmosphere there, I can't imagine what it was like. It was amazing. Get chills watching it on TV. I can't imagine what it was like being there. And you win. You win in dramatic fashion. You get out to a big lead. You let that lead slip away. You actually lose the lead altogether. You get it back, and you get a big-time win. You're now the number 1 team in the country. And how do you follow that up? Well, now we got to turn our attention to Vanderbilt. We got to match the intensity and preparation for Vanderbilt that we did for Georgia just this past weekend. And not only do we have to play Vanderbilt, we got to go to Vanderbilt. And it was a mid-afternoon kickoff. I didn't call this upset by any means, but I did call that it was going to be a ugly game, that Alabama was going to not look good, that they were going to maybe get off to a slow start and eventually pull away late. Obviously, they end up getting outright, beat. But, yeah, that was a very weird scheduling quirk that I saw that caught my attention right off the bat. That's tough to do when you're a new coach and when you have a new, well, not relatively new roster, but you have young adults. You're trying to get them to lock in. It is so difficult to get them to match the week after with the same intensity. Ohio State has Oregon coming up this week. These guys are locked in. They're ready to go. Luckily, they have a bye week after, right? They don't have to go. This would be the equivalent, Jacob, to Ohio State getting jacked up to go play Oregon this Saturday and then have to prepare to go on the road to play Purdue the following week. That's exactly what Alabama did. I'm not making excuses, but when I saw that they were playing Vandy at Vandy, I was like, oh, yeah, this isn't good because there's no way you're preparing the same way with the same intensity that you were the week before for Georgia.
Yeah, and maybe I overlooked him. I said that Alabama was going to take care of business on this Sunday. I gave DeBoer a lot of credit for how he was going to get these guys prepared, and maybe that was just too optimistic. Yeah, Alabama fell 40-35 to Vanderbilt in Nashville on Saturday. It was Vanderbilt's first win against the top 5 opponent, now 1-60 in the history of the organization. Their quarterback, Diego Pavia, transferred from New Mexico, beat Auburn last year. So now he's taking care of both of the SEC powers in the SEC. Look, a lot of bad, obviously, when Vanderbilt has 40 points and over 40 minutes of possession time, rushing for 166 yards, and at the end of the game when you need one stop to get the ball back and have a chance to win, they just run it right down your throat. There's not a lot of great spins for that defense. The defense needs to play better, and we saw a lot of guys really not handling it well at the end of the game. Two-time captain Malachi Moore really losing it on the field as the game ends, kicks the ball right before the final snap of the game, right in front of the referee, throwing his mouthpiece, a lot of stuff that you aren't necessarily accustomed to seeing from an Alabama football team, much less a two-time captain, but you know, the team has moved on. They've addressed that in the locker room. It seems like DeBoer talking about it yesterday, and it seems like the defense is just trying to turn the page on this game and come back and look different. But I think my biggest concern at this point is for the last 6 quarters of football, Alabama has not looked good at all. Alabama was up 30 on Georgia, 28 at home last week, and then blew that lead, ultimately losing the lead, Georgia taking the lead, and then heroics from Ryan Williams, who continues to be an unbelievable freshman, another circus catch down the sideline for a touchdown this week against Vanderbilt. But, you know, this defense for the last 6 quarters has not looked good at all. And it's kind of been a different story on the offense. You could take a lot of what I've said about the Bengals over the last few days and apply it to Alabama at this point. And for one of the very, very few Alabama-Bengal overlap fans, it's been tough because it's the same thing on Saturday and Sunday. The offense had the ball for under 18 minutes against Vanderbilt on Saturday. They had 17 first downs and 35 points. Jalen Miller had 310 passing yards, a touchdown, and a tipped interception. Ryan Williams, 82 yards, ran for right about 185 yards. This offense was effective without even being on the field. The defense just couldn't stop a nosebleed on Saturday, and that's really what spelled the end for Alabama. Joel Klatt said yesterday on his podcast that Alabama reminds him of the old Lincoln Riley Big 12 teams, and that they're going to have to put up 45 to win games, and that's not going to work in the SEC. And if that's the case, I certainly believe him, or I certainly agree with him. But I don't think this defense is as bad as it looked on Saturday. I think they're going to figure it out. They have a lot of the guys that were a part of the defense last year that were very, very good. They did just lose Jaheim Otis to the transfer portal, a 5-star freshman from a few years ago. He's a sophomore now. But entering the transfer portal, shutting down for the rest of the year, moving on to hopefully increase playing time in NIL in the new era of college football. That's becoming more and more regular. So trying to replace guys in the rotation as they, leave the program now in the middle of the season. But I have a lot of faith in this team turning it around. One-loss Alabama teams make the national championship more often than not. So obviously a gauntlet of a schedule ahead of them still going to Tennessee, who fell this weekend as well, to Arkansas, to LSU, to Oklahoma, and then playing Missouri at home. All those games looking a little easier now than they did in the preseason, but still tough to go on the road in the SEC no matter what. So a lot on the table for Alabama still, and with the 12-team playoff, one loss, even to Vanderbilt, still does not keep you out of it. So if Alabama can take care of business, they still probably even have enough wiggle room to drop one more. So still definitely healthily in the mix for a national championship, still in the mix for an SEC championship, but definitely not the start to the DeBoer era that we wanted in Tuscaloosa after what we thought was a great start 2 weeks ago against Georgia.
Yeah, and just, again, the high highs. That's why I'm so glad Ohio State plays Michigan the final week of the season, because they have big games from time to time throughout. Like you get jacked up to play Penn State, maybe not the last couple of years, but like Penn State, that was always a big mid-season matchup. Wisconsin at times, but there's no game. The only way I could compare Ohio or Alabama preparing for Georgia would be to Ohio State prepping for Michigan. Obviously, Alabama hates Auburn as well, but Auburn hasn't been on that level that you prepare for in that same way. And then have that emotional game, and then you have so whoever Ohio State would play after Michigan, if that game was ever played earlier in the season, which it never is, that would always be something I would circle and be a talking point for Ohio State, which is why I brought that up for Alabama. Alabama dropped 6 spots in the AP poll. They're now sitting at 7. A lot of teams. There was again a big reshuffle with 4 of the top 11 teams dropping. The other teams, of course, Tennessee, who normally is an offensive juggernaut, they get beat 19-14 by Arkansas. Washington beating Michigan. That really isn't a surprise. That was one of my upsets I called last week. I just think Michigan's one of those top 10 defense, bottom 10 offense in the country. I mean, it's that putrid. 27-10 the final there. Minnesota beating USC. One of the cool things about the conference realignment, some people don't like conference realignment, but, seeing USC play Minnesota is not that big of it doesn't look that crazy, right? But normally you would see that game be played in September, and normally you'd see Minnesota play at USC in a non-conference game. But with conference realignment, it is strange seeing USC go play at Minnesota. It's going to be weird seeing that brand go play at Rutgers or at Maryland when that time comes. It's going to be wild, cool to see when they go play at the Shoe, which we've seen. But yeah, a Big Ten game, Minnesota upsetting USC and Lincoln Riley. How about that?
Yeah, look, USC wasn't ready for Big Ten football. I think that's kind of evident now. They're getting bullied by teams that aren't even at the top of the conference. So yeah, it's upsetting for a guy that really had faith in Miller Moss and that USC offense after the start of the season that they've tapered off the way they have. I don't think that. I mean, we'll see what happens this week. I can't speak too soon, but I don't know that any of the transplants to the Big Ten are really looking that great so far this year. I don't think that's a hot take to say. Oregon has pulled away late in some games, but definitely hasn't looked pretty the whole time. So the infusion of talent into the Big Ten hasn't necessarily given what a lot of people expected it to, but still increasing the amount of meaningful games. Obviously, this one wasn't high on people's lists going into the weekend, but became very, very interesting as it unraveled, and that's the fun of the Big Ten, and that's the fun of college football as a whole. So I think it's more good things to have these teams play more competitive games. So there we go. Love that USC lost. Love that there's more upsets, and if this is going to provide that, then great.
Let me ask you this. If Alabama would have lost to Vanderbilt last year, would they have been eliminated? Off that rip?
Well, no, not if they would have won out and won the SEC championship.
That's what I'm saying.
But
So
no.
it's okay. It's just making sure.
Yeah, what I'm still fascinated by this playoff at the back end. I thought I had it figured out coming in, and I don't. I have no idea. If Alabama does pick up another loss, 2-loss Alabama or a 1-loss Indiana, we know how that plays out, but that's going to matter. Like that, I still think you're going to get those scenarios that start to piss people off. But, you know what I mean? It's just going to be interesting to see how that stuff plays out. Nonetheless, the bottom line, the only way Indiana finishes with 1 loss in the season is if they beat Ohio State in one of the 2 matchups. Assuming they play in a couple, later on in the month or in November, but then that would assume you beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. A 2-loss Indiana team's not getting in, as far as that's concerned. So, but yeah, I mean they're very much so still in this. I know people are bringing up who's the player you mentioned?
Malachi Moore.
That I did not like that. I'm surprised a suspension or something didn't come down. I didn't like that at all. I mean, he just grabbed the guy and just shoved his head into the field. I thought that was gross. I thought it was
certainly wasn't pretty. And
He's
I think
a psychopath, dude.
The rest of the clip certainly wasn't great either. Kicking the ball, throwing your mouthpiece, yelling at the other players, yelling at coaches. But yeah, I don't know. If the conference wants to do something to suspend him or the league wants to do something to suspend him, that's fine. I think it would be crazy for DeBoer or the Alabama coaching staff to level punishment like a suspension, or some people in the chat calling to kick him off the team. That's absolutely crazy in my opinion.
All right, Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton, Ohio State, Oregon. That's the big one coming up on Saturday, 7:30 the kickoff for that one. Oregon welcoming in Ohio State. I'm not high on Oregon either. I was coming in.
Dylan Gabriel looks.
I said coming in, I was like, Oregon might be better than Ohio State coming in. I said, Oregon, actually, I really like all over. I think Ohio State's getting a lot of love, but I think Oregon's actually going to be – and they're undefeated. There's three Big Ten teams in the top 5, and they're all undefeated at 5-0, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State. But Oregon, they're 5-0, but what I like to see from championship contenders is when they play bad teams that they dominate those bad teams. I don't think they've dominated one opponent this year. So Could this be the game where all of a sudden it's their turnaround game for Ohio State? Possibly. I mean, they have them coming to Eugene, so I think that's going to definitely help. But I have yet to see them look dominant in any capacity. So I still like Ohio State in this one. But, man, oh, man, I was expecting more out of Oregon, which is why it's saying about a 5-0 team and the number 3 team in the country as we sit here right now. But 2 versus 3.
That's
ESPN,
right.
They got what they wanted. They got the big one.
The showdown, baby.
There you go.
I like the new graphics, by the way, they do for college football. It kind of looks like the video game with the little ranking. You ever notice that? It might be newer this year, it might be not.
Are you talking about the SEC on ESPN graphics?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You don't like those?
No.
You don't like that?
It's like my least favorite thing that's happened to college football in a while.
Never mind. I retract.
I would love for some of these sports networks just to bring up the old school from 20 years ago. Bring up the old school, right? Like,
yes.
I don't know. I think that would look very, very cool. Just that nostalgia feel a little bit. Like, I would love just the old graphics package, the old packages when it comes to that. But nonetheless,
before we go, I was going to ask you guys about this. I saw a former Bengal player take a little shot at the Bengals yesterday on a video. Maybe not. But I know Bengals fandom really did not like it. I was gonna see if you guys have seen it yet.
I have. And
the video was longer than the video that this fella posted was longer than the hang time of his AFC Championship punt that lost the Bengals the game.
Oh, you've checked out on them too? I love this dude.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it next.
Okay, fair enough. More off the bench. I love punters when we come back. Why are we talking secretly about the punter? Are we not allowed to say the name of the punter?
Well, I see. My opinion on this has changed because he is a friend of the program. So Drew Chrisman is former Bengal punter. He's now trying to be a social media guy, trying to make his thing. Listen, I do whatever you want. I don't care. I think more than not, a lot of it's kind of funny. But I do feel like lately it's been taking like a more negative turn than it has previous. I think last week or the week before, he was like, I'll burn my credentials, somebody else can have them, and I'll give them away, and I'll burn the jersey. It was just a bunch of weird kind of stuff. But yesterday it was, I'm practicing my holding. And he did a video where he one-handed a snap, put it down, and then winked at the camera. And Bengals fans were not pleased. I can't show the video because it has music in it, and I don't want to get copyrighted. But I don't know. I think it's a little weird at some point. I'm going to be as nice as I can. It's a little weird at some point to only talk about the Bengals while you're trying to get back into the NFL.
Well.
Right? Am I wrong on that or am I right? Because I could be wrong. I just think it's a little strange.
With the most due respect, I think his best chance of getting back in the league is staying as relevant in the Bengals talk as possible.
Yeah, and I also think that ship has kind of sailed possibly. I mean, he's burnt bridges with a couple different teams now.
Yeah, I saw that too. The Commanders, he keeps releasing the text. I don't root against Drew Chrisman. I think his videos are funny. But I will say it seems like we're stepping over the line to where I think teams might not want to deal with it anymore.
So far this year, Ryan Rico has 14 punts, averaging 55.6 yards with a long of 80. In Drew Chrisman's career across 28 punts, he averaged 47 yards per punt with a long of 65.
Yeah, he's also responsible. Ryan Rico is also responsible for pinning the ball down to get that safety.
He was the guy who got the safety, not Sam Hubbard. Yep. That was Rico.
Yep, in half as many career punts, Ryan Rico's over half as many punts inside the 20 as Drew Chrisman in their respective careers. I mean, if we really want to talk about who the better punter is, let's not bash the guy who's the best punter in football right now.
I just feel like it was an unnecessary shot
100%.
At a guy who has been doing good this season.
For a guy that struggled when he came into the league and has to understand how hard that is for a special teamer who is contract to contract and can be out of the league so fast, to hop on social media and bash an undrafted rookie who had a phenomenal game and had one mess up at the end, it's honestly a little disgusting to me. I don't really understand why you would do that and just twist the knife on a young guy trying to make it in the league. who's doing really, really well.
Doesn't make sense to me. Mr. Mo says, why do people care so much? I don't really care about it. I just thought it was a talking point. It seemed like there was a storm of Bengals fans that attacked it. And that goes to like what Kinner says. Usually when someone attacks a Bengal, there's an army
mentality.
There's a swarm, and they get you. It's like being a Beyonce fan or a Swiftie. You just got to attack whoever attacks you. Enemy territory, and it seemed like Drew Crispin. I thought I was rooting for him to get back. I liked his videos. I thought they were funny.
Buckeye legend.
I just think at some point it's just like you probably shouldn't do that unless you've just given up and you're just going to do that full time now, which is okay. Just like there's a line you just don't cross.
There's one of two things. One, so the credential being pulled seems ever since that credential got pulled, he's been agitated with the franchise, so maybe that sets up poking the bear a bit. Also, what some people deem as attacking somebody, I don't think that's what he was doing, but I see why that would bother people as far as that goes. I don't think he did this to go after the punter. I think he was just trying to make light of the situation that, hey, I'm looking for a job. Hey, Bengals fans, remember me. It's just that type of thing, but I know fans are very emotional right now, especially after starting out 1-4. Probably don't want to hear it. But I went back and looked at his content. It's not just trolling the Bengals. I mean, he's doing stuff with Cam Newton. There's Buckeye stuff in there. Like, it's a wide range of content. Yeah. It's not just bashing the Bengals as some are taking it.
I took this as I should be the punter, not Ryan Rico.
I think it was definitely a shot at the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that was clear. I don't know if it was specifically a shot at Rico, but it certainly is a shot at Rico, whether or not you meant it to be that way or not. Because you're making fun of the fact that he obviously muffed that snap.
Well, let's talk about how this whole situation developed to begin with, shall we? Right? Like the whole reason that the botched snap occurred is because of a decision that was made by a particular coach named Zach Taylor.
What a segue. Oh, my God.
That was your best segue
That was
ever.
phenomenal.
What'd I do?
That was your best
That
segue
was really,
ever.
really good.
Go ahead. Sorry, finish.
But that's the thing about this show is when you nail a perfect segue, we completely ruin it by recognizing how good the segue was.
And we forget about what we're talking about,
that was
and you might as
great.
well stop right now.
I mean, a pro's pro over there.
I feel pretty cool right now.
Just saying. There we go.
But yeah, so a lot's been made about Zach Taylor since Sunday's loss. Obviously, the Bengals now 1-4. I'm a bigger Zach Taylor guy than most. I still wasn't a fan of all his decisions that were made on Sunday. But I think that right now fans are very emotional. They're very agitated. They're very upset, and they want heads to roll, and they're pointing fingers in all directions. And obviously, we know, Anarumo, nothing's going to happen to him as of right now. Technically, when we bring up Zach Taylor, we know he's not going to be fired right now. You're not going to blame the offense. Obviously, that's the one part of the ball that is rolling at such a high level, one of the top in the league. But Zach Taylor, with all the heat that he has faced for the decision to go ahead, and of course, the 3 straight run plays in overtime. Yep. One of those, of course, was a change at the line of scrimmage by Burrow. But when I brought that up yesterday, you're right. There were still 2 other intended run plays. Okay, that led to this, and then it sets up a field goal. Obviously, we're talking about that now. Bottom line is when it's all said and done, the result wasn't what everyone wanted, not even what Zach Taylor wanted. But with all the backlash, with all the frustration, he was asked if he felt he made a mistake. Would he go back and change it? Does he regret the decision-making with some of the play calling late? Here's what Zach Taylor had to say.
I'm very reflective on things I can improve on. At the end of the day, the decision for me is we are in comfortable enough field goal range for Evan, and I don't want to do anything to disrupt that. And again, I'm accountable. I know that there's probably a lot of different opinions on how that could go, but at the end of the day, that's where it sits with me is you don't want to take any sort of negative play. Sometimes it can be a penalty. Sometimes it can be something getting disruptive on the play. And when I trust our kicker in that position to finish the game for us like he has countless times, and I'm not putting the way that kick went on him by any means, but again, in every situation is a little bit different. We've been in those situations before. We've been aggressive and thrown the ball and tried to close out games that way. And yesterday I felt that's where it went. But again, always think about it a million times. What would I have done differently? And I'm comfortable with where it ended.
So I've had time to reflect on this as well. For one, I know you're not going to be a fan of him doubling down. You don't change your mind at all about the decision that was made there to run it 3 times, and knowing you have for sure points in that situation. You have for sure points in that situation. I know people want to bring up, you took the ball out of Joe Burrow's hands. You put the ball in Joe Burrow's hands to put you in a position to be able to come away with points. you were already in a position where you could come away with points. I mean, you look at everything right now with, of course, your kicker with Money Mac. You call him Money Mac for a reason. You paid him a lot of money for a reason. 3 for 3 from 50 before that. Last season, 7 to 12, 5 or 5 from 50 the year before that, 9 of 11 back in 21, including 3 of 3 in the playoffs. So we know how dominant of a run he had in the playoffs. The bottom line is when you think about that point of the game, now that we've had a little more than a day to kind of reflect on it, yes, Joe Burrow was rolling, and the Ravens obviously had no way of stopping him, no doubt. But you were in a situation where we have a guaranteed 3 points. We know our defense is probably going to give up points, but at the very least, we could pray that they hold them to a field goal. We can go down and go for a touchdown and end this now. But if we go down for a touchdown and a penalty happens and now we're out of field goal range, now we don't have a chance of coming away with anything. Or a turnover happens. A turnover happened on the previous possession. That's not a shot at Joe Burrow. Lamar Jackson turned it over too. A lot of crazy things were happening down the stretch. It was chaotic. You have a guaranteed 3 points coming your way. Your kicker, Money Mac, had just hit a 56-yarder the week before against the Panthers. Like this, he's money from there. He's been money from there all season. The more I look back, I don't mind his decision-making at that point. I know that's not a popular stance. I completely get that. I don't think it's wrong to say you wanted them to be more aggressive. But there's a difference between saying that the coach was outright wrong and, man, I wish he would have done this. And I feel like it's a lot more of, I can't believe he's an idiot for trying to take the for sure points in overtime, than saying, oh, man, I wish he was more aggressive. And I feel like it's more of that. I feel like it's more people bashing Zach, saying it was a completely wrong decision versus I would have preferred something different. I get your stance. I don't think anyone's wrong in this case. I just think people are being way too hard on him. I actually like the justification when you go back and look at the situation. Coming away with the for sure 3 points is a lot better than risking a penalty and stuff that maybe is beyond Joe Burrow's control at that
I've
point.
come back on this quite a bit. I think you absolutely have to run the ball on 3rd down. So that takes one of them off the table. You have to center it if you're going to kick a field goal, regardless of whether you pass or throw or pass or run on 1st and 2nd down. Even if they're incomplete and you're in the same position, you have to run the ball on 3rd down to get it to the center of the field. And now we know Zach Taylor called the pass on play 1 that Joe Burrow audibled from, or at least that's what Zach Taylor said, and we have no reason not to believe him in that case. That now leaves us with one play where we disagree on running or passing. I would have thrown it on 2nd down. Zach Taylor chose to run the ball. I'm not going to kill him for that, and it's because of the snap and hold. I think the snap and hold gets Zach Taylor a lot of leeway here, because if Evan McPherson misses a perfect operation, then we can kill him for the missed field goal. If we get the 1st down, we're still missing this field goal with the snap and hold. Evan McPherson kicked a ball that got put down 0.1 seconds before his foot hit the ball, 50 yards. He would have made that field goal, and I know you can't say that, but I'm going to say that. He would have made that field goal with a clean operation. Now, have we had issues with our operation for basically since Clark Harris got hurt? Yes. So you play for a closer field goal because you know the operation isn't a sure thing, even though McPherson might be? Absolutely. And that's where I still certainly agree that we should have been more aggressive, but I still boil it down at this point to 2nd down because he called the pass on 1st down. It was audibled by Burrow, which we all agree Burrow should have the ability to audible whenever he wants. Then I think you have to run it on 3rd down to get it in the center of the field to give McPherson the best chance. Was he scared to pass it on 2nd down? Maybe. I think at that point we're splitting hairs. If you get that hold down with a clean snap, you make the field goal, you win the game, no one's talking about the play calling. If you're closer and you botch the snap, then no one's still talking about the play calling and you still miss the field goal. So I've softened on this quite a bit over the last 24 hours.
My issue isn't that he ran the ball 3 times. My issue is that what helped them get to the point of 38 points and forcing overtime with Baltimore was the pass game. That's how you got there. That's how you scored as many points as you did. You were successful. Your offense looked good because of the pass game. And now we're just going to run it 3 times for the first time all game. That's not play calling to me. And I know the one was Burrow. It's not play calling to me. It's quitting. You quit. You're forfeiting and you're taking the points. And he keeps bringing up, it's Money Mac range. It's Money Mac range. I know how good Evan McPherson is. We all do. But Evan McPherson, a 55-yard field goal, I don't care what kicker you are in the league. I really don't. Justin Tucker 5 years ago, prime Justin Tucker, prime Adam Vinatieri. I don't care who you are. A 55-yard field goal is not automatic. It's not. I don't care if it's 70%, 80%, or for Evan McPherson, it's more like 90%. You got to that point in the game by throwing the football, and you openly didn't do that 3 straight times. I think that was quitting. I don't care that he missed the kick on a bad snap because you set him up for that. Throw the ball once, maybe get a first down, and keep marching. I would have been okay with a 40-something yard field goal, 40, 45-yard field goal, 44-yard field goal. But settling for a 53, 54-yard field goal can't be the play.
Call a better first down play so then Burrow doesn't have to basically call a run play when there's 9 guys in the box. Like that still is bothering me that there is a play in our playbook that's designed throw where they can't find a guy open or it's not a good look when there's 9 guys in the box. What are we doing? What sort of call is that? So that's where I have a little pushback on because it's not just the fact that the play was changed on first down. Yes, he tried to call.
What's the design that you can't throw with 9 guys in the box? Yeah, no, that's definitely a valid question. I understand everyone mad about play calling and everything like that. How is it quitting, though? I don't understand that at all.
I don't think it's
you're giving yourself the best chance you think at that time to win the football game.
The best chance you have to win the football game is to leave it to Joe Burrow.
In your opinion, Zach Taylor thinks the best chance you have to win a football game is to bang a 53-yard field goal. So it's not fair to call it quitting because it's not.
I actually think that's more aggressive. I think going the 54-yarder, that's actually more aggressive.
Right.
People say settling. I'm like,
that's not a lack of aggression. It's just aggression on special teams, not offense. It's not quitting.
I think you're quitting on offense if you settle it and run the same straight run play 3 straight times.
But a penalty. You keep saying
quitting doesn't make sense to me because that means you're giving up on winning, and they're not.
Sure,
they're doing what they think gives them the best chance to win the football game.
But you're not running an efficient offense. You are doing the same exact thing over and over just to try to inch your way to a closer field goal. The choice has already been decided.
I don't think they were trying to get closer.
So you're saying, then why didn't they kick it earlier? That's the part I don't get.
Yeah, you can't kick it earlier from there.
If you're going to kick it,
you should for certain.
Not from there.
If the whole point is we're going to
53 to 60. If you muff that snap, right?
Yeah, but you kick it, then you kick it on first down if that's how you feel. So then you have second and third down to move the ball again, center it up again. Because he already kicked the 56 in Carolina, right? So, that's why I was trying to get at what's the difference between a 56 and a 53?
It'd be 53 and 60.
I know, but if you did it on first, if he was in field goal range, you try to kick it on first or second down, so then you have at least one more down to move
you're saying
the
bring the
ball.
offense back out,
Yeah.
try to gain. I'm not as much a fan of that, but I understand what you're saying, though.
It was evident that once the Bengals recovered that fumble, it was going to be a field goal.
Correct.
That was decided. And my point is it can't be decided when you're at the 40-yard line. You have to try to get a little bit closer.
And that's all. I completely agree and understand that take. As soon as you throw the word quitting in there, I'm out. Because you're doing what you think is the best chance to win the football game.
I think you're quitting on Joe Burrow. You're not giving your best player. You're choosing Evan McPherson over Joe Burrow.
No, because I do think he's still.
But I don't think that's quitting.
I still think he's also trying to protect Burrow there too, because there are things that could happen outside of Burrow's control. For one, a turnover that you could say is in his control. But what if a false start happens? Now you're back further. Now you're out of field goal range.
That's why you kick the field goal on first down. All these turnover arguments. That gets negated when you can kick the ball
Simple
on first down.
handoffs. You've been running the ball real well too. You pick up 2 or 3 yards.
Where they were though.
But you could have. You 100% could have.
I 100% disagree. If you fall on that snap at 60 yards and no team in the league brings their offense back out and runs it again, you do that because you leave the field goal unit out there and you run the field goal again. And if you fall on that snap, you're out of field goal range. So I don't think that's an option. That's an option if you pass and get a first down.
Second down. You certainly could have done it on second down. You can run on first down, then.
But if you fall on the snap, I don't think you're in field goal range anymore. I think
you still have third down.
You would still have the next down.
You still have
no
the
one
third down
does
to
that
throw.
though. This is fantasy land.
Sure. No, I agree. Nobody does it. But the argument that anything can go wrong, so let's run the ball 3 times, it works the other way too, because Jeremy Hill did this. That was the same thought Marvin Lewis had when he gave it to Jeremy Hill. That was the same exact thought. And something bad happened. So I think if we're going to do this, then I think you have to look at Zach Taylor and say, you said I'm settling for 3 points no matter what. The rest of these 3 plays, they don't matter at all. My point is, why run on them? Because that's a risk. All 3 of those runs are a risk.
I'm willing to take that minuscule risk of a fumble on a run up the gut. over kicking it on first down.
I know you
out
lose
of field goal range on a muff snap.
Sure, and I know you lose those 7 yards, but again, like Casey said, you get another play. And if you said that's not good, well, at least you get to punt it and pin them back and pin it back there, and we can settle for a tie.
I am 100% more comfortable with what happened on Sunday than muffing a snap and punting it back to the Chiefs or back to the Ravens.
And that's fine too. I'm not saying
because that would be quitting.
Sure, it 100% would be. But my point being is that I think there was a better option than the one Zach Taylor decided on. Zach Taylor, during his time as a Bengals head coach, 10-21 in the AFC North, 22-22 at home, 0-3 at home this season.
That's fair. Last thing, too, on this as we wrap up the radio side, because I want to continue this. But the other problem I have with all of this is that decision's not made if you have a semi-competent defense. I don't think
1,000,000%.
100%.
So that's like this is why I brought up yesterday, like we're willing to give Burrow and a lot of guys the benefit of the doubt for mistakes when they happen, far and few between. But when they happen, it's like, well, yeah, look at everything they're having to do to overcompensate for the defense. I still give Zach a little of that because I think that decision that was made that everyone's criticizing, that doesn't happen if you have a defense you trust. That was like, well, damn, Joe Burrow, we know he can move the ball, but, man, we're a false start away from being out of field goal range, and now we don't have any guaranteed points, and now that sets it up to where the Ravens just need a field goal to win it. If we at least come away with 3, we just got to pray that we at least hold them to a field goal to get Joe the ball back. There's a lot that went into that. Zach doesn't always make the right choices, no doubt, but again, we don't have to agree with it, but he at least had the justification. He was right. They were in MAC range, and they just paid that guy a lot of money during preseason to make those kicks, and obviously that was taken away from him with the botch snap.
I know a guy they paid a little bit more.
A little bit more. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Couple.
Slightly.
To get him in that range, and he did.
Oh, I thought you were making a joke.
No.
Oh, but you were right. You're right. Yeah. All right, we're done on the radio side. We got the Justin Kinner Show coming up next on ESPN 1410 Wing AM, but we'll continue on here on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. So about that Dobby impersonation, you truly didn't think you said something else?
Nope.
That clip's going to be very good.
And it will be clipped.
It's already clipped.
Is it already clipped?
Yeah, Reed pulled it.
Is it tweeted yet?
I think it's in the Discord.
It will be tweeted.
Just give me a chance when it's retweeted or when it's tweeted. I got to defend myself on that one.
Man, oh man.
But yeah, listen, Zach Taylor, and again, I've never been a Zach Taylor guy. Everybody in here knows that. I've never been a Zach Taylor guy. But my argument for you guys would be at this point, and I know the offense has looked good, and he's an offensive guy, and Joe Burrow is playing maybe the best football of his career right now. 1-4 is unacceptable.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. I don't care how many good teams you play. I don't care how bad the defense is. 1-4 is absolutely unacceptable with a mostly healthy offseason. It's on Duke Tobin. It's on Lou. It's on Zach Taylor. I think there's only so many seasons I can do this where we start with a losing record every time. Every single time. Good teams don't start with losing records every year. The Kansas City Chiefs, despite how good or bad that offense looks, they win football games. I know it's unfair to compare the Bengals to the back-to-back Super Bowl champions, but good football teams don't start the season behind the 8 ball every time.
I don't think it's unfair because it felt like it was trending that the Bengals were going to be able to rival what the Chiefs were doing. And as that got matched, as you beat them on their home field in the AFC Championship game, it felt like, oh, we have everything we need to go toe-to-toe with them. It just seems like more and more has been taken away. And the gap just keeps getting bigger when that wasn't the expectation was that was going to be the number one rivalry in football. And it still is at the very top of the list. We wrap up. So he was asked, Zach Taylor was asked about, does he feel it's a preparation issue, another year of a slow, bad start? He was asked if it's, are they having, are they not prepared? Is there an issue with their preparation? Here's Zach Taylor. Maybe. Do you have that? Sorry.
That was a funny one.
Well, I was saying it and watching him. I'm like, he's not going. He's not prepared. Here's Casey not prepared as we get prepared for a clip about preparation.
I had it. I just wasn't paying attention.
No, that's not on Casey.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
You don't sense that in any way, shape, or form, lack of preparation is factored into beating 1-4.
I really don't. We you know, we go back through practice tape after games, you know, to see similar situations and to see what we can do better to prepare our guys, to see where technique can improve. And so, again, we go through it thoroughly, trying to make sure we're not missing anything.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it is a preparation issue when it happens every year.
Here's the problem with that. He thinks, no, we've done everything we can. And sometimes you have done everything you can, and maybe that's the problem. I know there's a wild take, but, like, you do wonder. I remember one time at Reds Fest, I'd asked the Castellinis, because this was right as Burrow was drafted, and, like, all the hype went to them. It's like, are you in competition with teams, professional sports teams in your own city? Like, I know, like, there's the social media, it's game day, and, like, the Reds do that to support and vice versa, and then players go to Bengals games and vice versa throughout the first pitch. But you would have to think there is a little competition between the organizations that, like, oh, man, we don't want to lose footing as the face of Cincinnati pro sports right now. You would have to think that Zach Taylor, regardless of, and I've been a Zach Taylor defender, but I'm watching the Reds haven't made one dang move outside of hiring Francona as manager, and there already seems to be a weird shift. I almost wonder if the hiring of Francona does have an impact outside of just, again, the losing for the Bengals right now. You don't need a personality as head coach, but man, oh man, I'm watching what Francona already just being introduced does for a fan base. It just seems Zach Taylor has a lot more of that David Bell in him than he does at Terry Francona.
The biggest five-game stretch in recent Bengals history is beating the Chiefs to win the AFC North and then going on a playoff run all the way to the Super Bowl, ending with a loss, but still probably the biggest five-game stretch in recent Bengals history. I think this one's just as big. Giants, Browns, Eagles, Raiders, Ravens. You have to win those games to salvage this season. If you're not going into the Ravens game on a 4-game win streak, the season is probably over because you have no wiggle room. I mean, you have to win all of the games that you're expected to win, and even then you might not get in. Ravens, Cowboys, and then probably at Steelers, you're going to be underdogs. You lose those 3 games, you're looking at 10-7.
Yep.
That is zero wiggle room to make the playoffs. 0-3 in the AFC North, or in the AFC Conference. Everyone loves to keep telling me 9 wins is going to get you in the AFC. I 100% agree. Not when you have this bad of a conference record and you have no tiebreakers. The Bengals have to win every single game that they're going to be favored in the rest of the year, and probably 1 or 2 that they're not going to be favored in order to save this season. This 5-game stretch is absolutely massive for this team.
Well, would you look at that? Us working overtime today.
That's right.
Would you just look at this? 12:02. See, no one comments when we go over.
No.
But we end the show a few minutes early some days, and people lose their minds.
That's right.
But we're putting in a hard day's work here. 12:02.
That's right.
On a Tuesday.
That's right.
Closing thoughts. You were about to say something, but last point.
No, I was just going to say I think that you were right when saying that both these franchises definitely compete against one another. I think that's a fact. You want to get as many fans in your ballpark, your venue as possible. And the Bengals certainly have dominated that market over the past couple of years. But saying all that, and this is where I want to tie it back to Jacob, if you lose this season this early, and I'm talking with a loss to the Giants pretty much acts as this season. If you go 1-3, 1-4 over the next 5 games, you're killing the season so early. There needs to be a change made.
Yep.
There has to be. You can't have 5-win seasons with Joe Burrow. You can't do it. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt of last year because there was no Joe Burrow. But when you have Joe Burrow, the roster has to be good enough to make the playoffs. I'm not saying even win the division. You got to win 9 to 10 games.
And it's weird how the quick things change because I actually thought Zach did a great job last year post Joe Burrow. Like, you lose your franchise quarterback. So it's like, but it's weird how quickly things change. No doubt about it. By the way,
expectations are different in football, too.
Another weird stat, strange but true. We talk about run differential. We thought the National League had some weird run differential stories. The Reds had one of the biggest run differentials in baseball and just never were sniffing the playoffs, right? The Bengals 1-4 with the 5-point differential. The Texans have a minus 12-point differential and are 4-1. It doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
But that's sports. All right, well, we're done today. I'm exhausted all this extra overtime.
Oh, my God, yeah.
So, until tomorrow, Casey, thank you as always. Appreciate you. Elliot, always appreciate your very gross humor.
Thank you.
That was great.
Appreciate that.
And I'm glad he could put a smile on your face by the end of the show.
That's right. Needed that.
Needed
that.
Harry Potter.
That was so.
You need
I
a
love
sock.
That was on par with his introductory Pete Rose show.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think we were going to top that for at least a month or two, and we did. So that's great.
Casey, when you were gone, we talked about it. That might be probably, if I had to rank favorite moments, that might be there at the top. It's pretty up there.
Yeah.
This one's very close.
This one's definitely up there as well. This one not on radio, though, definitely knocks it down a notch or two.
No editing.
Yeah.
Which is sad. But it was on video. All right, until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers.